loueMT versus Beasty Cutie. Tim, this is a matchup which could actually break the space-time continuum, considering how much both of these guys love the late game.
Yep, we're probably going to see a little bit of a late game, and especially in game number 1, we might see a little bit of a late game because we have the English coming up from loueMT. Now, KP, I don't know if you personally know my feelings about the English in this game, but oh, mother of God, here we go. Game number 1 between this pivotal powerhouse matchup. Guys, get hype in the chat. It's Beasty playing as the color yellow in the Holy Roman Empire. Louis as the color pink, as the English. As you can see, his scout going around. We're on Himmy Yo Mama, KP.
Oh, well, Himmy Yo Mama is a little bit too big to fit in that small pond. We do have a little bit of water to play with here, and I wonder if Louis is going to open up by going to it. Now, you said you wanted to rant about the English. The good news is it's loueMT's English, so you actually might have 55 minutes to do so. The question mark is whether Beasty is going to play too aggressive for it, because there is a civ that can unravel the plans for English. Historically, attrition has been a good one for that, especially on a map where it's very difficult to play defensive. Himiyama has you on the top of the hill with very little to defend you.
Yeah, Himiyama is one of those maps that, honestly, I feel like in the ranked pool I'm a little bit sick of at this point, but I understand the merit of it, and I enjoy it. You know, what's really interesting about it, too, when we're talking about in a situation where Pro Scouts is a dominating force, right? Take a look at where those deer packs are. You don't get a quote-unquote safe deer pack. Everything is pretty much forward. Most of your food resources, sometimes you get lucky and get a little bit of a back berry, right? But most of the food resources that you have are forward. So seeing something like English on Himiyama isn't exactly surprising, because they don't really care about this food being all the way up there, because they just make half-price farms and they're not going to interact with it.
Yeah, I love that you highlight that, right? It's like, it's not just that the deer isn't safe. You mentioned the berries as well. Like, the reason why a Delhi or a Bassa pick isn't just an easy clap is I've seen games with 2 berry back spawns. I've seen games with none. You don't really want to coin flip the spawns with such a volatile extreme. So that's why you're usually going to see these more pseudo-aggressive civs. Now, HRE against English used to be fairly good for HRE, regardless of the changes in the meta. With Pro Scouts, it dynamically changes things to be more forcibly engaging, right? And you're already seeing that from Louis, the fact that he's opening with a council hall.
Yeah, that is interesting. Obviously, we're going to see him pumping out a copious amount of longbowmen. Now, with obviously your decision as the English, you can go Council Hall or Abbey of the Kings. Do you have an idea as to why he did not choose Abbey? Because obviously the King is going to help you. You know, you can have a stable and have some horsemen to kind of distract from the Pro Scout situation. But he goes for the less mobile longbow.
It's a little bit odd. I think his concern is that he's going to get attacked. If he opens with a few archers, he can force a weird reaction out of Beasty, right? Maybe force him to go into the horseman, not the archer straight away. Because like the way you win this matchup as HRE is you just blob archers and feudal, right? And, you know, if the king comes out, you can more easily blob into archers to snipe him and also just add in a few spears. So yeah, it does feel a bit odd. I don't like it for this feigned aggression 2TC type build. I think if that's what Louis is up to here, he's in for a rude awakening. So hopefully he's got some sort of very aggressive idea in mind, because in the current meta, although English might be one of the civs that can get away with 2TC, on average, about like 85% of the time, you will see Pro Scouts beat 2TC.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting, right? I think it's just the timing of the payoff, right? For Pro Scouts, you get that technology, right? You're getting those deer carcasses pretty much immediately, whereas the English, they got to take time. They got to get that stone. They got to get that wood. And then it takes, what, 5 to 6 minutes in order for it to pay off in terms of the amount of resources and villagers that you're getting. No one's got time for that, you know, especially with what used to be that economic prowess comes from the second TC. That was a risk that you take. When you're talking about risk assessment, things like Pro Scouts are substantially less risk.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, you have to go farm sooner, right? Whereas H3 are just going to be pumping out Pro Scouts nonstop. So, like, you know, you say it's 6 minutes to return the investment, it's even longer. The only reason it's kind of okay sometimes for English is because of how cheap those farms can be. But it's still an investment in a different direction than winning, right? Against a Civ that's got a 40% buffer towards that win condition. And you can already see that Pro Scouts is on the way. So BC should already have stables. Realistically, you want to be doing stables plus archer range here. It gets a bit tricky with the tree lines, but if you look at BC spawn, he kind of hit the jackpot. it might actually be, is it 3 in range of the Archon? He at least got 2, yeah, 3 tree lines in range of that Archon.
Yeah, if you're a Beasty fan, you're loving this spawn. Absolutely. You'd even have time to put, you can put a lumber camp over there just to make sure that wood line is secure. You clear all those trees out. You can get to farms a little bit later if you want to. First, longbowman, the arrow, shot heard around the world, taking hits on that HRE villager. So a little bit of that gold he might need to vacate. But Beasty, with that wood economy, already has an archery range and going with archers. So he's definitely going to try to do this outmass strategy that you talked about. Second archery range already going down, KP.
It's pretty smart. Like, pro scouts can kill you against this longbow entimement that I was talking about for Louis, right? So the counter is immediate double archery range. Pro scouts are still going to be there down the line. Like, you know, I can count on one hand the amount of times in the last 6 months I've seen pro scouts English. It happens, but it's insanely rare. And with a council hall build, you're just not going to see it, right? If you want to do the pro scouts build for English, it's usually with Abbey of Kings. So rough start now for Louis. Has to retreat all the way back, being like, haha, I've stopped you. The reality is you've delayed him. Beasty is still going to be a really big problem, and you already see the problem I was talking about for Louis. Free farms might not sound like a big investment, especially with a 50% discount, but compared to what Beasty's about to get on the other side, this is painful to have to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice that it sets you up for later in the game, right? And we talked about both of these players being late game players. So if anything, maybe it just kind of saves you in that regard. So loueMT does have a couple spearmen. He did with the barracks. You know, he got a couple of spearmen just to make sure around those safe deer packs is going to be something that's difficult for Beasty to do. And this was pretty interesting because he kind of knew that he was going to start massing these archers, right? So he didn't go with the stable and make more scouts for pro scouts. Now he's starting to, but he only needed like 1 or 2 carcasses because of how wood heavy it is, right?
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned the whole idea of like the farms eventually being worth it, right? But it's a classic kind of bait in RTSs where like, wow, this sets me up for the late game. Yeah, but how are you getting there, right? It's like when someone says, oh, I'm going to invest in Intel because it'll be worth it in 50 years. Like, in 50 years, I'll probably have a nurse wiping my ass. I might actually have dementia. I don't know what's going to be happening then. I want to know what I'm going to be able to do in 5. And that's what BC's doing with this build. It's all about how do I pressure now? Louis knows it's coming as well. He doesn't want a part of it. We've got him actually stockpiling for Castle Age. And my worry is that if he does this, he'll have no choice but to do a white tower build.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and I think it's really important if you're somebody who's new to Age of Empires 4, or even if you're a seasoned player, having a realization that the plan that you've made might not be there, right? It can go awry. The best plans are the ones that are adaptable, right? So Louis, he goes with that council hall. He had some longbowmen. He's like, probably not a good idea. English, obviously, their number one priority, their number one strategic powerhouse is defensive. Right? So getting those longbowmen in the back, he only has 6, but getting them with the network castles, having a tower out there means BC made all of these archers. As far as doing damage, I don't really know how much he can do with them.
It's not even necessary now because you can already see what he's doing instead. He's going to mirror, but because it has to be white tower due to the threat, BC's going to get the advantage out of Regnants, right? Like, if Louis doesn't read this as the bait it is and go for the King's Palace, he's in trouble.
Yeah, and this was always even just back in the game's inception, this is the age-old thing with HRE and English, where English just wants to sit in their base. HRE is like, okay, let me just pluck all these religious artifacts out of it.
Yeah. And, you know, like, the problem as well is, like, I'm thinking about what you do with the King's Pass here. There's no immediate giant grab. It's not like you're going to drop it and it's going to secure a full flank. Like, there's still poke points, and we're already seeing them come through here. Idle time on the gold is going to slow down the time, and Louis is actually 2 gold short of what he needs, which is allowing Beasty to close the gap. Now, keep an eye on his food number as well, because remember, he's done deer, which means, as you're seeing there's ginormous drop-offs that will happen, especially with HRE that have a higher carry capacity than other civs.
Yeah, and now you're going to see the difference in somebody who, even though they're half price, like you talked about, having a farm transition instead of doing what Beasty just did. He is going to slap down that Castle Age landmark right before I even finish that sentence with 11 villagers on that Regnant. So we'll be trying to pluck some of those relics out there. And because of his ability to do that, right, he spent more resources on getting a feudal military with some archers, a couple horsemen, that kind of stuff. So Louis has to continue to sit there. But look at what Louis is doing on the other side. He's trying to get his own economic prowess going on. That looks like a king's palace to me.
But what Louis now needs is to immediately get into stables, because you see the problem here, right? Is that Beasty is going for an immediate return on investment. Louis, you talked earlier about the whole TC reinvest, right? Like, this is a more expensive TC. It unlocks the age, but now at the start of the age up, you've got more burden on your food income, and you only have 400 a minute right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the White Tower so good, right? It's defense and adding, it's basically a keep that you're getting for free. You don't have to mine the stone. And because of the production on it, you can make whatever unit you need to deal with whatever's in front of you, right? So Louis would have had that ability, that tempo swing in order to do that. Doesn't have the ability. Now at King's Palace, acting like a second town center. But you're right. Now he needs more farms. He needs to stall a little bit longer. He's adding some stables to add in some knights. But it's going to take time because you need that wood economy to keep going with farms to get out more knights. So you're kind of at a catch-22 here.
Yeah, and the White Tower, you mentioned a lot of the good things about it. It has another layered benefit. There's like a sub-variable of the defensive element you talked about, right? It's like, if I have a keep already in my base defending me, I don't have to have any units, right? Now, that completely changes the script, because if BC's adding in a few knights, I don't care. He's diving a keep. That's a dumb idea. However, because it's now King's Palace, BC is going to be able to dive into your base, which means Louis has to keep troops back, which is why you're already seeing him prepping crossbows, not just massing lancers and knights.
Yeah, and I think this is the biggest part of English in the White Tower, probably that frustrates me the most out of anything. You think that because they just spent 1,800 resources going up, right? So you're like, oh, I could take the battle to them. I obviously have more army. Not so fast, my friend. You try to do that, and you die.
I mean, clearly the issue there, Tim, is that you should have just spent the same amount of resources they spent on their tech up on rams. If you just built 9 rams, you could have killed them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to
Probably
put
not,
that in my next game against English. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, there's no way that 20 villagers will torch the rams before the White Tower dies, right?
No way, right? Absolutely not. And I think, do the villagers get the network of castles with their torches?
I think so. I'd have to double check, but I think they do. It's like the civ is just obnoxious. Why not? Actually, no. I think it's weird because there have been some variables that do affect things and don't others, but like other units, I think don't get their torch increased anymore. I'd have to double check. We've been going through weird cycles. Like I think just a month and a half ago, English knights weren't getting their attacks buffed for reasons I can't explain. I guess they're so busy trying to tell the horse to stay still, they forget to swing faster. Well, speaking of swing fast, this is kind of going against Louis. While the knights are in a good position, the archers are trading out for what they need. This is all about crossbow racing now, and Beasty is winning that race to max bolts.
Yeah, and I think he might continue to as well, because a lot of these villagers that he has on gold, you can see that little bit of a Wolo being defensive, not obviously catching anything, but he has the ability to not put as many villagers on gold as Louis necessarily needs to, even though that he's on a second town center, just because the fact that those relics just push out so much gold per minute, after a period of time, they're worth their weight in gold.
And keep in mind, that wasn't a defensive Wolo, that was an aggressive Wolo. That was, Louis, I have more relics than you, right? Which is great, because Louis is the type of player that always wants relics. Like, he's one of the people that actually really brought back the double monastery opening in the 2TC meta. He was obsessed with it. And now you see this awkward situation where he tries to go relics, but it's already now going to be a contest over the north side. It's not guaranteed he's even going to get one hit. Regnitz makes up the entire lead that Louis has right now and opens the floodgate. You know how Beasty likes to play this. Now that he's against 2TC, he doesn't have to rush his opponent. He can just rush age 4.
Oh, yeah. You're exactly right. That's why he probably saw that King's Palace, and he's like, yeah, okay, dude. You have fun with that. You're going to go ahead and make villagers, what, 1 villager every 20 seconds? What an idiot. I'm going to make Swabby and pump him out every 6.
Right? Like, why would I settle for let's have 2 kids and settle down and be realistic about it when I could have a love hotel where I'm like, let's have a family of 12? That's the power of HRE for you. And it's still absurd to this day that for some reason, that choice gets discounted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely mind-blowing, you know? And just being able to get that quicker, right? You got to get it quicker, get those villagers out quicker. All of a sudden, while Louis ends up getting to Imperial Age, it's going to take a little bit of a time for him to do that. right? Because he's got to get enough villagers, he's got to make army to make sure he's safe, he's got to get his farms, he's got to do all that kind of stuff, while Beasty just plops out a building. So Beasty's going to be a mile ahead. I know that you're seeing the economic count on the top part of your screen, 64 to 45, but as soon as that Swabia goes down, that is going to be a drastic change.
Yeah, because the Holy Roman Empire is about to pass an abolishment on contraception, right? Like, you're going up to 4TC. And at that stage, a 20 eco lead, like, we're approaching the stage where Louis balancing up against his opponent's economy, right? Like, we've got the relics adding in an extra, 16 villages worth gathering. Then we've got the Archon effect, which is still buffering up a decent amount of his economy with the Pro Scouts play. Like, realistically, at this stage, Beasty's economy is competing. In fact, if you look at the income numbers, you can see that clear as day. So what happens when he goes age ahead and has even more villagers coming? Like, this is a bit worrisome. I know Louis likes to play for the late game, and theoretically, if it goes deep enough, good for English. But HRE isn't about deep Imperial, right? They're about getting Imperial quicker than most other sits.
Yeah, and that's kind of the most frustrating thing when you're playing against HRE is because of those relics and what they got. They got their Regnant's Cathedral. They got 4 of those relics, which is absolutely crazy. You have the ability to, now that he's going to get that, Pro Scouts gives him that transition, right? So he's starting to do a little bit of farms, but he doesn't need to do it so drastically, right? Not like Louis is doing with all of these farms. Pro Scouts is a little bit of a buffer to kind of help him out. Now that Swabia goes down, you don't need that much food income to continue that villager supply, and you can continue to go on wood, get your farm transition, all that kind of stuff. But when you're playing against the HREs, you're seeing some of those crossbowmen have a nice volley there. You have this ability as the HRE. Once they get to Imperial, that's kind of your time to strike. Because it's before the Swabia pays off, and all that kind of stuff, before the Imperial Age tech comes in, all of that kind of stuff. So is Louis, does he have the military mass to actually do that? I'm going to tell you no.
No. The thing that's going to drag this game a bit more, though, is like Beasty feels comfortable in the late game, but it's also the difference for a Pro Scouts build is Pro Scouts builds is usually good for ending the game a bit faster. Because if you don't end the game fast, you run out of food eventually, right? And like if you look at Louis' army, the counter is to build horsemen. So you either build horsemen or try to build spears in the English, which always feels weird. But building horsemen without farms is difficult. So Beasty is just going to allow Louis to try and attack him. He's going to probably stockpile up to about 25 farms. And then the pony flood will begin.
Yeah, and you're seeing he's already starting to queue, spiking a pony flood. You're seeing 6 horsemen already in the queue. Beasty trying to save that outpost, obviously will not be able to do that. And you're seeing for Louis, this is kind of his time to strike, right? You can see how much he's building. He's building a lot of horsemen. He's building a lot of crossbowmen. He's trying to get to this, population capped supply. And if he doesn't do it in the next 3 to 4 minutes, I think he's going to be battling uphill for the rest of the game.
Yeah, he has to brute force his way in, but this is tricky. We've reached Imperial Age. Gee, I wonder, Tim, what could the HRE build that would stop an entire army?
Yeah, we're talking about it, and maybe you're thinking about units, but these outposts are a little bit more formidable. That might not be the answer that you were expecting, but look how formidable these outposts are. And you have the ability to, just because I don't see any siege out of Louis, you got to use all of these horsemen with a fortified outpost having the burn armor. And look how long this is taking just to take down 5 villagers. And in about 20 seconds, Beasty's going to be like, I literally don't care about these 5 villagers.
Yeah, like, he'll be like, oh no, those ones cost me 50 food. I ripped myself off. Anyway, I'm just going to buy some for like 16 food. Who cares? So, this is nice for Louis, but it needs to be staging into attack. And instead, he's staging into Imperial. You can already see he's starting to stockpile up. I hope it's Wingard. I'm going to hate it if it's Berkshire. There's literally no reason currently you should need a Berkshire.
Yeah, I mean, as far as English being defensive, right, you can kind of shore up his defenses. And then he's continuing to take down some of these outposts that are of the Springald variety. But you have the ability, just because you're English, you have a lot of those defensive, bonuses. Makes it a little bit easier. But the one thing for the English, just because he is trying to get to Imperial, and I get that, the one thing that you can't get in your base, especially as English Castle Age, is gold. And you see him taking down this outpost, but Beasty's going to have the visual and see where Louis actually is on gold. That might be the place to go if you're the Holy Roman Empire. Louis knows that, and there's a big giant Berkshire that's going to shoot arrows from another dimension at you.
Yeah, so this is about denying Sacred Site victory. I'm a little bit surprised still, though. I think, what would have made sense is maybe even a little bit more aggressive, because then you turn it into siege, and then you can just push in, right? Like, you just spawn a few cannons, and all of a sudden, Beasty's in trouble. But, like, I do think that people have been sleeping on Wingard at the moment. It does feel a little bit weird when your opponent's flank horseman raiding, but, like, footmen can be good if you can funnel. Speaking of those horsemen, they are already in. They aren't elited up just yet. There's still a minute to go until that upgrade comes through, but Out of Time achieved a key moment, right? Like, Louis is teching, and his farms are getting shut down.
Yeah, and he needs this res, especially this gold, right? You know how expensive it is to get up to Imperial, not just the 1,200 gold to get the fancy building, but all of those technologies that are so expensive. To get those elite upgrades, it's 700 gold, and I would imagine he's not going to make just one unit, so it's going to take so much, plus the stuff from the university, plus with mangonels, if you want to get adjustable crossbars, that's another 1,200 gold. So Louis and what Beasty is doing right now, creating that idle time, is definitely giving Beasty a little bit of time, so that Swabia ends up paying off. And KP, you can see it on the top part of your screen, that eco count is evened out.
Whoa. So abolishing the two-child policy pays off. Beasty already caught up before the 100 villager mark. This is where things become problematic. Now, Louis, he can at least equal out the economy as we go deeper. We have to remember enclosures on the way. We have to remember that at this stage, the farms, the English are buffed by 30%. So 3/4 of what Atri get. And once you scale past the point, Atri's arc and buff kind of becomes poop on a stick in comparison, right? Like, I could buff 80 farms with 30%. You only buff about like 30, 35 as HRE. So, like, there is a little bit of a worry if this turns into an infinite horseman flood. Really good for Louis. Time being, Beasty is just zerging trash tier units. Horseman spears. Louis doing something a little bit crazy. He's immediately trying to go into hand cannons.
Yeah, and those hand cannons are quite the expensive unit, so getting a mass of them, obviously, it's going to take down most of anything, but getting that mass is going to be that biggest problem. BC's trying to find some of these gold mines that Louis is going for. There's one all the way in the bottom of the map, the southern part, also trying to set some initiative, take a little bit of a fight on the back end of Louis' base, but there are way too many English units here. By the time, if he does take a fight near that base, you're going to be dealing with network of castles, maybe network of citadels if he's gotten that already. I think this is a little bit of a, I'm not going to say a throw, but I'm kind of surprised Beasty put his units all the way out there in harm's way.
Wait, you're surprised Beasty sent his troops all the way around the back so his opponent would come all the way home so that Beasty could come all the way out to take all the resources from the center of the map?
All right, KP, I'm just playing checkers over here and y'all are playing chess. The ability for you to call that out is very good.
Never seen him do this before.
he's even taking some of these villagers with him, right? He probably thought this was a disposable kind of army, right? And it was.
Yeah.
It ended up going down, but took a couple vills with him while he's establishing a little bit of map control. Now, that top sacred site can definitely be decapped. That bottom sacred site's going to need a little bit of siege, and it looks like BC is adding a bunch of culverins.
Yeah. I mean, Beasty's endgame strategy, is always to try and absorb the map resources, right? Like, these horsemen aren't about directly fighting the English. If he's just watched recent 20-year history, he'd understand the English people are very good at eating horse. We don't care. So, the reality here is that he just wants to waste so that Louis eventually shrivels up. And the game will be to try and secure wood lines, and eventually secure gold lines. We have got culverins coming in, so there's a layer of quality coming. It's interesting that Beasty's switching men-at-arms, considering hand cannoneers are already on the way from Louis.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, too. I mean, he definitely has a huge surplus of gold, so using things that cost a little bit of gold, maybe men-at-arms he's looking for, and he's kind of, if loueMT does go into that longbowman area, if he does get silk bowstrings as well, some of that could be a big deal. So using those men-at-arms maybe to try to soften that blow might become a difference. But
I don't understand.
KP,
I thought bows count as spears. Bows count as spears, Tim.
not so fast, my friend. The short bows, maybe not so much. More villagers are going down. BC now has a 50 economic lead, almost 50. This is getting into the devastating part of the game, I feel like.
Yeah, because Louis, while being a prolific waller, Louis is actually one of the most vile wallers. You can literally see what he tried to do to Beasty's base to show that. Problem. Didn't use stone walls. there's a popular plan at the moment on those wide flanks. Just do a tiny stone wall, right? Because like the issue for Louis is, yes, he's adding horsemen. He's also adding a lot of infantry. He doesn't have mobility. Beasty is just playing classic H3. You want to know why this guy loves this Civ Tim? It's not because it can just hunker down and go Imperial Age quickly. No, it's because it's not just the horsemen that are quick. For a guy who likes to raid your economy and run around the map like a headless chicken, those spearmen layer into that cake beautifully. Sovereigns are going to get backstabbed here as the horsemen and Louis do show up for their prize. So the Berkshire is going to still be standing. But I don't think Louis is going to be standing for long. He's down to 66 economy. Beasty right now has a 70 villager lead.
Yeah, and he's only got 2 town centers. And if I remember correctly, English does not have the Swabia. So it is going to take a little bit of time for him to do that. Now, we talked about the English farms and how good they are, right? With all of that gathering speed, they can really separate the wheat from the chaff, let me tell you.
Yep.
But if you don't have the villagers to pluck the wheat, it's just going to sit there. And then that military is going to continue to dwindle down and down and down. So you're right. Beasty's going to be able to do this kind of, you're calling it wasting or frivolous wars, frivolous skirmishes, but it really doesn't matter because he's able to continuously do it.
Yeah, turns out actually as much as we got used to eating horse, too much of it might be a bad thing, as he's about to learn. More ponies arriving on the farms, and all of a sudden the farmers are turning into compost. This is borderline over at this stage. Beasty hadn't even got the full imp plus tech. So we can see loueMT is finally been queued up. Elite army tactics is just going to make this a decimation, right? Like Louis, the problem I see is if this is a direct fight, I'm back in the hand cannoneers. But you know, Tim, like this is almost like fighting Hannibal in Rome. Let's just not fight him, right? Let's just ignore him, fight around him, so that he shows up late every single goddamn time. And that's the issue here. loueMT has hired a bunch of men carrying around very, very heavy guns that might actually questionably be asthmatic, considering how slow and how puffed and out of breath they are right there.
Yeah, I mean, some of them definitely. You can see those 4 hand cannoneers on the south. Oh my God! Someone get them an inhaler, man. Like they're struggling, and they're like, moving down south
so fast.
Even the spearmen are going to catch up to him, right? Because of the ability for those spearmen to be a little bit faster. Like you said before, I think that Berkshire, unless we see a little bit of a horseman flank at some point, those horsemen or those culverins are going to end up taking down that Berkshire pretty quickly. I think it's already burning, so that sacred site might not be in English control for too long.
No, and congrats, Louis! The Imperial English army are here. But who's defending the north side of your base? Because Beasty is getting ready to go in again.
Yep. It's the age old, you know? This kind of reminds me of things like Delhi elephants because of their mobility, right? Can you kill them? No. But just don't go near them. Just go all the way around. And that's exactly look at what Louis is doing on the right. Look at what Louis is doing all the way on the north side with these walls. He's got palisades upon palisades, but my God, there are not enough sticks for this. You know he's going to be taking down onion layer after onion layer, and then he's going to get to that core eventually.
Do you know what this map is making me realize? Man, we suck at defense. Like, do you want to know why English done so well historically, Tim? We didn't even need to build walls. If we lost, we just went back to an island. What's anyone going to do? You lock us on land, and this is how bad it gets. I mean, at this stage, yes, Louis has a bigger army, but he's yet to do anything with it. Realistically, what this boy needs, he needs 2 or 3 cannons out of that Berkshire and an attack down the center to try and do some damage. But with an economy that small, is it even feasible?
And, you know, this is really frustrating about HRE, too, as you're watching all of these units go in the multitude of directions that they're trying to go. Louis was trying to get a little bit of a counter raid going on where the HRE was, some of those Aachen fields to the southern end. But it's just so frivolous to try to raid an HRE player in Imperial because of the Swabia, right? And because Beasty was sitting on almost 150 villagers at one point, he's probably okay with some of them going down.
Yeah, I think what we need here is we need some like Warhammer Tzeentch changeling vibes. So, because if Louis could choose when he went Imperial Age, he wishes he could just copycat what Beasty's done, right? Like you mentioned, the Palace of Swabia covers him so well. Reality is Beasty doesn't really need it. He's not losing enough economy. Louis is in dire straits where I wouldn't have actually blamed him for adding in a 3rd TC to try and get this back online.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do a little bit of something, right? Because it's been a long time. I'm not sure how many minutes, but it's been a decent amount of time, and he still is nowhere near catching up. Now, obviously, because of all of the villager kills and all of that kind of stuff, that's not really helping you out. But only 2 town centers might not be able to pick up the slack either. Horsemen are trying to get in on those culverins, but they're going to go down rather quickly. Berkshire is going to go down quickly as well, even though you need wood to repair it. You need those villagers to be alive to actually swing a hammer, and a lot of them are going to end up going down. Beasty is continuing to endlessly flood units, and this is this late game post-Imperial area for the HRE when everything just clicks and goes so well. You just watched him queue 40 units of horsemen and spearmen. So yeah, the hand cannoneers might be able to take a lot of these horsemen down. Who cares? Who cares?
Especially with the Bark Shambles now, right? Like, you've got bigger problems. The hand cannoneer mass can't really be sustained. And another funny thing is culverins are actually anti-infantry. Right? They're very good at taking them out. They're like Barrett 50 cal. So while you've built baby hand cannoneers, Beasty in a way already has the big boy hand cannoneers. Doesn't need to kill them fast. It's the fact that he can gradually grind them down. And I think we've reached that stage. And a little bit of a preview of what might be coming, because this is how these two typically play. Historically, the way they scrimmed, practiced, and fought against each other in 2024 was this type of gameplay, which means this series on its own could end up being longer than all the other series today combined.
Yeah, it definitely has the potential to do that, but I think game 1 for this one, KP, I think the writing might be a little bit on the wall. Beasty going with that starvation tactic, putting keeps around those gold veins. He already put some bombard outposts kind of right next to the palisades of Louis. You could see that big yellow blob going into that English starting town center as that gold continues to get raided. I mean, he's just at every single angle you possibly can. Louis's head is spinning, and he's like, just get me the hell out of Himiyama. Like, I'm so done. 1-0 Beasty.
So the current meta might not actually favor Louis, and this is actually a perfect example of why. He's a prolific English player. It's one of his most disgusting and strongest picks, but right now, English stocks are kind of falling. It's not that they're a bad civ, but in a Pro Scouts meta, you're seeing exactly how they can suffer to these superior ones, like HRE, like the Chinese Zhuji. And the other worry I have is, like, in this matchup, I think the play for Louis might have been, it's gonna sound weird, Pro Scouts himself. Go for the king, go for your few horsemen, and get into Pro Scouts on delay. It's feasible. I've seen a few English players do it. There's not many civs that actually can't justify Pro Scouts right now. Even Abbasis can justify it. So with that in mind, I think moving forward in the series, Louis just needs to respect that tech. You can't ignore it. He essentially opened in a way that would have set him up nicely to go for it too. But instead of doubling down, he doubled back for a greedy fast castle.
So you're kind of saying for the English, maybe they're down a little bit of a tier because they don't like to do it, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Like if you think about it, there's a few civs that just outright say no to Pro Scouts, right? And English is kind of up there, which is weird because I think they can do it. It's just they don't get any benefit to doing it. It's not like French where it's cheaper and where they have already got stables. It's not like Zhuji in China where they get it in 30 seconds.
Right. And, my personal opinion on that result, that end game for English going down a little bit, good. Going into game number 2. Now, we have the Rus. The first time we're seeing Rus today, I'm pumped, going up against the Byzantines on the driest of Arabias. Now, I feel like this used to be a matchup where Byzantines felt pretty good in the situations, especially when Rus was going more the way of 2TC Kremlin and they were doing more of that kind of stuff. But now, again, I mean, everybody, you should have made a drinking game out of this. Professional scouts for the Rus going in Feudal.
But like, I was worried that if we'd done a drinking game on Pro Scouts, this stream would get banned for self-harm, right? Because we're going to see it pretty much every game. Now, there is a thought that with Byzantines on this type of map against Rus, the play is Limitane Javelin all in. I hope that's what Louis is going for, because I'm thinking through the other options. I don't want to see a Hippodrome. If I see a Hippodrome, we don't need a drinking game. I will just open the bottle of whiskey now. If we see Fast Castle, like in theory, Cataphracts seem like they'd be good, because while you can't kill the horse archers, you can kill the economy, right? I think it takes too long.
Yeah, I think it might have the potential to take a little bit too long. I mean, obviously, seeing a gulp would be fun. I am a big gulp enthusiast.
Is it really fun?
To me, when when I'm the one gulping and staying
Oh,
hydrated, it's really great. You know,
got it.
that stuff. I don't know what they get from the cistern of the first hill, the water that's there. I swear that's from the Fountain of Youth. That stuff hits. Let me tell you. I don't
Right?
know. I mean, that's
Like
got to be like 70 proof or something. It just oh, it's so smooth. And with 100 and with 125 HP that you get with a cataphract, it's pretty crazy. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, you do have horse archers. You have the ability to kite them, but for a lot of Arus players that are going more Golden Gate kind of stuff, Arus base is a little bit less defensive than it used to be.
Tim, come
Yeah, I
on.
know.
Like,
Yeah, I know. I know.
you're a
I'm
Roos
trying.
main. Stop trying to stop them getting nerfed, dude. I'm
Listen,
calling you on this.
I'm just trying to like stir the pot a little bit.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Maybe we don't know what's gonna happen. We can see there's a bunch of different scenarios that can go on and all of that
There's
kind of stuff.
so many scenarios. Like the Roos are
Right.
such a diverse civ. They don't just build 2 hunting cabins, get pro scouts, and sit in their base until they're castle age with mass horse archers, right? This current meta literally wasn't born for you, right, Tim?
I think it was.
I think it's
I
time
think
for
it
you to
might.
start competing.
Yeah, no, I think if you've seen any of the games I play, you would know that I am a mediocre and garbage player. These two are not. However, Beasty playing as the Rus in yellow and loueMT playing as the Byzantines in pink. Now, that 2 hunting cabin start, just from someone like a Rus player, Rus aficionado like myself, is a little bit on the newer side, KP. You saw a lot of people going with 1 hunting cabin, especially when there was doing some kind of 2TC Kremlin shenanigans, right? But now that little bit of gold trickle to kind of help you, especially with getting pro scouts a little bit quicker, getting that hunting cabin trickling in from minute 0, you love it.
Yeah, I'm looking at spawn, and one thing I gotta say is it's deceptively bad for blocking pro scouts. So here's the thing. In an ideal world, if you're going to all in as Byzantines, the spawn you want is the first deer stack. Yeah, you don't want them both here. You want one of them between yours and Beasty's base, and one of his between yours and his base, right? Because then when you attack, you have troops always going that way anyway. So you can block out these deer. This is kind of unfortunate. Beasty's going to have options to play wide in a game where Louis is realistically going to have to go Limitane into javelins. And while Limitane sound really good if you get enough of them, very expensive. So curious to see if he's going to take that angle. There are some civs where I think you can do this as Byzantines and it's good against pro scouts. The problem is Rus get castle age so obnoxiously quickly.
Yeah. And, if you're going to go with that age old, right, that Limitane and javelin throwers, horse archers are speedy guys. They're speedy guys, and they'll go ahead and pew-pew all over your javelin throwers and your Limitane before those guys can even give a nice greeting to them. Now, the javelin throwers, I mean, obviously you have a bunch of them. It's going to be a nice counter, but the horse archer base damage can rip through a javelin thrower, and it's not like you're getting 50 of them.
Yeah, and like the reality is that limitation gets crippled even more because with pro scouts you can go horseman, right? Like I know that's the only positive I have about pro scouts is horseman all of a sudden feels okay in castle age. Everything else about pro scouts I want to flush down a toilet and forget about, right? So, we are going to be getting the Grand Winery. Thank God. I've seen 2 or 3 attempts at Hippodrome, and it wasn't even to rush Pro Scouts yourself. Just go Grand Winery. Like, the reason why Byzantines suck at playing Pro Scouts is to do it, you would have no mercenaries, which kind of beats the entire point in picking Byzantines.
Yeah, it's definitely antithetical, isn't it? Especially, when you're getting that winery, you're going to get an extra batch of mercenary units when you build that thing. So depending on what he goes for, whether he could even choose Keshiks if he wants to. I get it. I know, KP. I'm just like
Please
saying
stop.
That there's options. There's options, okay? There are options.
There are. Like, right, like you could eat your dinner tonight or you could chop your hand off, right? Like there's always options. But like let's maybe not self-mutilate. And Keshiks really feels like that.
That escalated.
That took a swing. Like the guillotine on your hand. Got a gate covered in. And this, oh God. What is it with Rus's landmark options? Kremlin was dominating for a long time. And now we're Golden Gate. I don't know. I'm starting to miss Kremlin. At least when I'm being stabbed in the face by gremlins, the Rus player was participating in Age 2.
You know, I'll be honest with you, KP. I always live and died by the Golden Gate. When I was first starting to learn how to play this game, the Golden Gate was so great because not only are you getting those resources, but you're adjusting your macro if it's not perfect, right? So you're able to get the things that you need. You know, it's kind of like a crutch almost.
Like
you
a
know?
Japanese player building Kura Storehouse, right? Like that, I always talk about Japanese being probably one of the most noob-friendly civs, deceptively, because like when you run out of food, you don't, because you have farms, right? Like I
Right.
get you; those kind of things are really nice. You can just gather
Yeah.
wood with this civ, and like, oh no, I missed macro. No, I didn't miss macro. I've got all these tickets.
And you know the best thing about Golden Gate too, not only is it obviously going to give you those resources over time, but it's something that continues to pay off throughout the entirety of the game, right? And those are the best feudal age landmarks, right? That's why the winery is so good, right? You can farm around it, you're getting that constant berry bush increase or that olive grove increase, that olive oil increase. So it's really good landmark. Things like the Akka Chapel, really good. Golden Gate continues to provide that little bit of bonus to your resource, a little bit of a macro change as you're continuing to progress in ages. So it's always relevant.
It's ridiculously effective, and this is on a civ that just gets so many other perks. The game goes on. The hunting camp is phenomenal. The high trade house, I think, is still overtuned. I think
Yeah,
they
I agree.
forgot to change it after the bounty system got changed. And like that's the other wild thing that I think kind of gets slept on a little bit is people thought that like the bounty system got nerfed. It didn't. It just became less stupid, right? Like the deer minigame was dumb, right? We can all look back and agree that was dumb. But now they're just getting a 10% raw increase in their income in gold by eating food.
Yeah, and it just kind of delays it, right? Because when you had that mini game with the deer in Dark Age, you could get your 200 bounty and get wheelbarrow basically in Dark Age as you're aging up and all of that kind of stuff. But because that bounty is continuing to provide a benefit, it's not just 10 gold with the high trade house, right? You're getting with each deer that spawns out of the high trade house, it's 35 gold because you're getting 1 gold for each 10 foods. So you're continuing to see these massive bounties when you're getting later into the game. We're at the point where Roos at Imperial Age, it has like 1,700 bounty, and you're like, yeah, that's average. You just got handed 1,700 gold for free. Are you kidding me? Whereas a previous Roos bounty was a couple hundred.
Yeah. And like the way to think about it is the old ruse system was that fiery relationship that you know is going to last 2 months before one of you dies. Whereas the new bounty system's like going steady after 5 years. You know what I mean? Like it's reliable. It's always there. You trust in it. It's safe. Right underneath your TC. No fret, no worry. Add in the Golden Gate and you see Roost games where they don't touch gold for 20 minutes, right? It's more likely that I will touch grass before a Roost player touches gold.
Yeah, and I would advise against that just with the whole foot situation. But you're right on the gold. I mean, he's not gonna. He doesn't need it, right? With all the stuff there, and plus with the Golden Gate, if he wants to go up to castle, he can do things like sell wood. He could sell even a little bit of food, even if he just has a surplus of it. So you definitely have the ability to. And plus, in Castle Age, when you're using things like horse archers, right? That's the unit that you're gonna make. It doesn't cost gold. You need gold for warrior monks, and that's pretty much it. You can get those safely from the Golden Gate. So there's really never an ability. And for how important that is, KP, your starting gold isn't touched until minute 20. That means you have a safe gold when you need it. For the Byzantines, they don't get that luxury. So they're going to be going out, and that gold is rateable later.
You know, you already seen the obnoxious this, right? The amount of deers already got home is whoopty freaking doodah that you do this term, right? Like, name me another civ that so frequently does fast castle right now. I'll wait. Wait. Name me another. Wait. Okay, we've got something off the beaten path that we can finally discuss this different, Tim.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. This is probably my favorite landmark in the game. It's not the most powerful. I get that. But it's so fun. Abbey of the Trinity, half-price warrior monks, right? So they're pretty expensive. They're 200 gold, right? Getting them at a little bit of discount, 20 food, 100 gold. And the Saint's Blessing becomes a certified powerhouse. You have so many warrior monks because of how cheap they are. You can get so many warrior monks in here. Everybody is blessed to the nines. And then you're winning fights that you have no business winning.
Okay, I got another theory craft on this. Beasty is what, 35 now? By pro gaming standards, that makes him a relic. So he's obsessed with relics. Hence, we've got Abbey of Trinity. Okay,
Love it.
interesting thought here, by the way. Like, Abbey of Trinity did receive a subtle buff that kind of went overlooked. You may remember it, Tim. It's that it's not just the Abbey that discounts the warrior monks now. And I've been theory crafting something I shouldn't have. How do you feel about a full front line of warrior monks?
Oh yeah, just honestly, just give me the prayers, dude. Just give me all of them. You know,
They all just bless each other. It's like it's never going to stop me getting that bless. You can't snipe 15 warrior monks out, Tim. Like, how do you do that, right? That's monkist.
And especially, you know, if they do take some kind of fight, and a lot of them get injured and all that kind of stuff, they just heal themselves back up with the power of, you guessed it, prayer. So obviously they will be able to heal up, and he'll be able to crank those warrior monks out pretty quickly, gonna gather up some of those relics. Louis is going to get that golden horn tower, so trying to get the most amount of javelin throwers. And for the 8 that he has now, as you can see, one tap that horse archer, one tap that second horse archer. I'm crying on the inside, but at least he has enough where he could do something against these mobile horse archers.
Now, that concerns me a little. Louis just queued up Varangian. Why?
Okay.
The Limitane is the answer. Like, he actually had the answer. Like, Chaplains and Limitane are the answer. So, yeah, why? It's a bit weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say it was a misclick, to be honest with you. No,
That he done twice more. I mean, I know the lag between Europe and China can be high, but
he did it again. No, but these this warrior monk for the first one getting that relic, obviously going to go down. One of the things that we talk about this with HRE a lot, KP, but sometimes getting those relics, the best thing you could do is get a little bit of field position. If you guys are American football fans, just getting that thing closer to your base could be useful for you, so you can scoop it up a little bit later. You can get it in the red zone. You know, I know the Americans will really like that. The Europeans will have no idea what I'm talking about.
Tim, I'm gonna let you in on a secret here. After how many years? Jesus, I'm old. After like 7 years of being a caster, I can tell you there is nothing that will alienate an esports fan base quicker than American sports references.
That's great. Well, hopefully Beasty will be going for the touchdown with that warrior monk.
Oh, looks like he got dunked though. I mean, like right now, I think you're looking less for a slam dunk. This is more like baseball, right? Lame baseball, where they take one at a time. It's like safe. Like, look at those relics. They are pretty much just gradually moving towards BC's base. You'd think there's some sort of gravity pull on them at this point.
And you know, they'll get there eventually, you know, but loueMT, the thing of it is, he's got a lot of his army around these relics, right? So what's happening? BC on the back end, you saw those horse archers that are there. Louis doesn't have any walls whatsoever. I didn't see much of outposts. If there is some outposts, there might not be too many of them. So he's going to be able to take a lot of losses here, or at least create a decent amount of idle time with these horse archers.
And that's what I wanted for him, right? Like, I was worried at first when Beasty just seemed a bit too focused on the relics, but it's like, it's quite crafty what he's done here, actually. Usually throwing away warrior monks like this, honey, no, right? It's too expensive. But because they're 50% off, like 50% off, making them 120 resources to bait an entire army, absolutely worth it so that horse archers can do things elsewhere. Now, so far, Louis has done a phenomenal job of blocking those raids, but we have the next layer to the cake. Men-at-arms and crossbows are coming. Beasty does need to wipe the javelin mass before he fights, though, because jabs will just shred that crossbow line.
Yeah, and I think, you know, he is making a little bit of a transition, obviously, Beasty is. And I think he's really doing a good job of not falling into that horse archer pitfall. You know, this is something that I like to do a lot because I think it's a lot of fun. But getting 50 to 60 horse archers, you know, obviously it's going to take a while to get that, and there's obvious counters to it. So he's not going that line. He's adding some men-at-arms to try to get rid of the javelin throwers. He's adding some crossbowmen to get rid of the Varangian guard.
These guys really hate monks.
Yeah, they hate him, dude. They...
Like, if Beasty hates monks so much he sent all of his to die, whenever he sees one of Louis, he has to kill it. Like, this is the truest of relic races. You'd think Beasty is still playing an HRE game. He's so tunnel visioned on it.
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of payback, right? It's more like this is kind of like a crusade more than anything else. You have this religion, this holy ability.
It's a war of the orthodoxies. Well done, Tim. I knew that's
it's
where you were
crazy.
going with that. Yeah.
Yeah. With these horse archers, still, just with this group, You know, the 7 or 8 horse archers, he's not making any more of them, but he's continuing to be a thorn in the side of Louis. He's got a couple workers down. Obviously, he's got 2 down, but I think it's more idle time that he's distributing. Now, Louis, basically the reason why he has a military strength the way he does is probably just because of that Golden Horn Tower.
Well, we have to move out to build a wall, by the way, which Beasty is just a little bit off on his timing to spot with the horse archers rotating around. So I think those horse archers... No, okay, I thought they would come to their demise, but apparently Louis definitely did not have even a clue of that. So idles the farm area, kills more workers. That's 3 additional eco kills. Camel Raiders coming out now will be the answer. So this is going to get mopped up. This will be the last we should see of horse archer raiding. But Beasty now has built an eco lead, one that was absolutely necessary when you consider it's a 3-2 relic split. And you know, over time, the Byzantine eco is going to be better due to those systems.
They are. They definitely are, KP. That cistern, everybody getting hydrated, everybody getting wet and wild in that Byzantine Empire. But Rus is going for more of a quantity. This is the time when Rus starts to add that second TC and really kicks off their economic prowess. Obviously, the Pro Scouts help, but you have the ability with that Golden Gate. You get a couple batches worth of stone, and all of a sudden you get a second TC. That's exactly what he's doing around that western wood line. So for Beasty, he's okay with doing this, creating a little bit of chaos, right? Just sending some of these units in every once in a while, making these villagers run for their lives. And he is going to keep going and keep escalating in that economic villager count.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so impressive how Beasty's taking full control of game 1.
Get what?
Oh, sorry. It's just, this is very reminiscent of the first game.
Oh.
He's literally Beasty everywhere, and loueMT is running around with the entire army one place at a time.
Oh, dude, you got me. I was like, where the hell am I? This game...
Takes you back,
Man,
right? We got another
I
Roman
gotta stay
Empire.
on my toes. Man, this is crazy. Now, Beasty, obviously, this force will get wiped up. Some of these javelin throwers and the Varangian Guard are going to be able to take down that. But again, this is just delay. This is just a little bit of stall. He's getting a sacred site as well. He's got 3 relics. So the Abbey of the Trinity is full. There is a Trinity there. Maybe you would think that because he went Abbey, you might have expected a little bit more relics, but the winery making sure that you could pump out monks makes it easier. And Louis was so involved with trying to get relics, or at least stop Beasty from doing so. So I don't think 3's that bad.
Yeah, and the thing that's different from game 1, right? Although we have the focus on raiding versus chasing everything around one by a time, the difference is that Louis obviously isn't being greedy. Beasty has been the one to be greedy. So by going to TC, he has weakened himself in a way. Pro Scouts should be like drying up, or at the degree where it is. We've got farms getting added in, but not many, right? It's like actually Beasty has a problem with food. Louis is in a pretty damn good position right now. If he just keeps aggressing, and you have to remember, he's set up more farms at this stage with the olive groves than Beasty has farms.
Yeah, he's got to do an immense amount of damage here. You know, you let that second TC keep going for the Rus, and it ends up being a pretty big problem. Now, Beasty did use, I mean, he used the Golden Gate for that stone, obviously, but I think he added a little bit more stone there with that Golden Gate, because look at all of these wooden fortresses, and look at all of these sprinkled upgrades. These fortresses are really chunky in terms of HP. If you click on that wooden fortress, if you want to do me a favor, just to see how much HP that it has, 1750 with that sprinkled upgrade. It will be a big deal. Those javelin throwers, don't get me wrong, they can sit under fortresses and stuff all day, but they're not going to do the damage.
Yeah, and chip damage has been coming on the flanks to build a bigger lead for Beasty. The other problem is Louis didn't bring enough melee units. I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't go for a sneaky little bit of a heal there, right? There's only like 4 melee units left when he vacated the area. So Beasty will just get away the villages. Louis, at this stage, you need to go in more. It's kind of crazy. He's backing away. I hope it's not to chase the villages, because that does play into Beasty's hand here.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about greedy just a little bit. Going for those berries all the way down there is a little bit greedy, especially when you're trying to do stuff like a farm transition. You need to get some safe stuff. Rus got to be a little bit defensive here. So getting that ability...
Like, look at the south side. That's quite interesting from Beasty. Is like Louis checking. He's going to come over and see no mill and assume he just went home. It's kind of weird, because like Beasty shouldn't need gold. He's still got a lot in his back base, but because Louis never going to realistically look there, it's pretty genius.
That's actually genius. KP, if we see that Byzantine army turn around, I'm going to lose my mind. This is going to
turn around to kill a wolf.
Oh my God!
They're going back.
He's a genius!
Now wait, Louis. He's heading down there because this is a bit tricky. He didn't scout the absolute corner, so Louis might be suspicious there's more berries down here. So unfortunately for Beasty, it's a bit too big brain to fit in a skull. He's gonna get found on the gold.
It's just a small point in the game. Don't get it twisted, you know. But that was a real treat to sit there and understand. Now Beasty continuing to go up in that economic count, so he's gonna lose those villagers, but he's still gonna be up. Right? He's still 63 to 50.
Well, but we have a problem, Tim, because Louis is now 2 TC. And Beasty is about to lose, what, probably 7 villagers?
Yeah, that second one going up. And, you know, it makes those winery groves a little bit safer, too, based on that spot. He can, just because of his sister and level. I think if it's not 5 by now, it should be.
I'd assume it's at 4
at
with
4.
2 TC, right? And, like, 4 is good enough. Like, as what, 22%, I think it was? So add 22% on 50. Congrats, firm handshakes. You kill these villagers, you're ahead of Beasty on like raw effectivity of villagers. Obviously, there's some variability there with the gathering rate for Roos and the extra wood. But it's fair to say that the gap is closing quickly, and Louis still has an army significantly larger than Beasty's.
Yeah, and just because of, you know, the villagers that he was able to take down, you know, keeping them idle, running them around. And while continuing to use most of these units that he has here, if you're looking on the top right part of your screen, more than half, or just about half, are javelin throwers and camel riders. So a lot of these units he got because he was greased up. You know, he's got some Varangian Guard, he's got some crossbowmen, but most of these are these quote-unquote free units. So that he was able to keep up the tempo while trying to catch up economically.
Can we check the east corner, by the way? BC has a building there, and I've been scratching my head about what that could be.
Lumber camp. That's adorable.
So after running from the south side corner, BC's like, he'll never check in his own base.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I like the cheeky plays, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Beasty's on a little bit of a timer here. You can see what he's adding in terms of army composition change, or I should say additions. Adding some horsemen and adding a couple mangonels. When you're seeing that big ranged mass that the Byzantines love to make, whether it's javelin throwers or longbowmen, you need some of that anti-range stuff.
Why? I'm kind of curious what BC's thought process is over men-at-arms instead of spears, right? And there we go. I was about to say, spears feels a lot better here. Like, obviously, he doesn't see the camels yet, but you got to suspect a few free points that are coming in. Really important because camels actually get bonus damage against siege, and they're incredibly tanky. But, like, the reality is, like, the comp here, I think, for BC, siege, horseman, spears does pretty well because the logic is spears are actually very good against javs, and Louis' army is primarily getting carried by the javelins right now.
Yeah, I mean, especially when most of your composition is made up on it, right? He's got 33 drabs, and then the other to round out the mercenary units, he's got 10 camel riders. So things like spearmen are obviously going to help you. These horsemen might help you just in terms of this range mass, but because of the camel riders, you get a little bit of that unease. So with BC adding those mangonels, now that he has the siege superiority, this is going to be difficult, I feel like. Even though Louis has the military mass, if he extends a little bit too far, if he pushes for this end game, I'm not really sure if he's going to be able to close the deal.
It's a bit tricky, right? Byzantines, I think they're more like timing in this particular matchup. Like, if the matchup becomes about siege, you have to remember that Roos had the advantage of just high armory discounting the mangoes. And Byzantines, like, you're going to go foreign siege engineering. You don't have the advantage of mangoes there, right? It's nest bees, which are heavily nerfed in the current meta compared to where they were before. So, yeah, I do think for Louis, it's probably a better idea to try and end the game here in Castle, unless you can get enough damage to just justify Imp. But if you look at his economy, you can very clearly see that he doesn't care for Castle Age anymore.
Yeah, and you can see him hoarding some of these resources, right? The only thing that he has in his queue right now are those mercenary units, the javelin throwers and the camel riders. So what's really nice for Byzantines is while you're doing this age up kind of thing, while you're hoarding those resources, you're still technically making units. So you don't feel too bogged down in terms of tempo. So he's going to be able to continue this push and go on that western side. He's going to be adding some Limitane as a raiding unit, but he's going to see those mangonels getting their rocks off on those Limitane, and he's going to back up.
Beasty does like to get his rocks off. I mean, we're up to 5 mangoes right now. If he can find his way into Imperial Age, you get adjustable crossbars, boom shakalaka, game like secure. It is difficult, though, because look at Beasty's position. Think about the lack of gold. Think about the fact he doesn't have a high trade house, which would be an extra 2 relics here. You start to realize that, like, massing mangoes is one thing, but actually making them really good is very difficult from his current position.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about, all of the siege changes that have been going on during this season, right? With the mangonel not being that powerhouse in Castle Age like it used to be. So it seems like a lot of people, instead of just making like a couple of those mangonels, then the springolds are taking pot shots at each other, now you just make a metric ton of mangonel, and hopefully it's enough. So loueMT is not going to take this fight in Castle Age. He's going to be going with the foreign engineering company to try to help him out. But you're right. I mean, you're dealing with Nest of Bees against adjustable crossbow mangonels. I don't like the beehives.
Tim, are you actually allowed to view this landmark with where you live right now?
What, the foreign engineering company?
Yeah, the foreign thing.
No, it's just a big black cube on my
If we
screen.
look at it, Tim literally gets cut from the call straight away.
Yeah.
But pretty much the expected choice here. It does have some really nice things. For example, you're going to get the extra armor from the camel riders to buff up your front line, which could actually make like Limitane a pretty brain dead solution. Right now, Beasty has blobbed for a go. We have 42 men at arms. He needs to try and find some layer of punishment for Louis taking the attack.
Yeah, and I think he's really going to attempt to right now. The thing is, Byzantines, they're no slouch in terms of defensible civilizations either. You're seeing these outposts, and you're seeing that he doesn't need to get mangonels to get his rocks off. He could just build that phallic structure.
Very strong and sturdy structure, the type that you could thump into, it won't move an inch. And of course, the other stupid part about those towers, for some reason, while being siege damage, range damage gets increased off of blacksmith decks. Why? I'll never excuse. It's crazy. Like the amount of times I'll see Byzantine players still just use mango towers in Imperial says it all. Look at the range on that. Like you can't step up. It's just not worth the risk. And now Louis taking advantage of that position from Beasty to try and go towards the economy.
And, that's really what some of these static defenses do. This outpost with the mangonel, he's building a keep on this large gold mine. These defensive structures really bog the game down. If there were none of those mangonel towers and stuff, Beasty could just continue his push with all of his mangonels and all that kind of stuff. He sees what's going on. He notices if he takes fights in those areas, it's going to be a problem, so he backs up. But he's got a bigger problem, KP. Speaking of defensive structures, he's got one wooden fortress here just shooting springolds at camel riders, but he's got to pull his entire army back.
Cheeky little quick wall here, but the camels are already through, and the army chasing after that. Louis actually backs off before he puts himself in a threatening position, but the issue is with the tech up coming through. I don't think you want to slow down here. Beasty has 6 mangoes ready to start slamming here. Louis is prepping the Varangian wave. We should also have the teardrop shield, so pretty brutal in these fights. The problem, though, is like I'm looking at this, and while javelins seem like the answer to 40 crossbows, it's not a quick, rapid answer, right? Like right now, if these two clash, I'm favoring Beasty on this engagement.
And, I think because there's a little bit of temporary value to this, as adjustable crossbars immediately gets picked. 2,200 resources immediately in that siege workshop. That's so great. Royal Cannon destroying these houses, so Beasty might get population capped at some point. But, with these javelin throws, if he's able to take these down, if he has the mangonels and take them down, it's not like you could just continue to pump them out of 10 archery ranges. It's going to take a while to build them back up. Now, these mangonels going onto these melee units, and because of how many mangonels there are, I think they're all going to go down if Louis is not careful. Pay attention, dude.
Wait, but it's a bigger problem. Louis, that is all of his front line right now, right? Like, he has practically nothing now. The cannons are going to scare him away, so Beasty showing a little bit of respect there. Might want to consider going to the siege works. We have Streltsy getting queued up already. This will answer pretty much everything in his way at this rate. Cannon does slightly overextend. It was going to be a dive in, but he doesn't have a quick kill with that Warrior Monk. Men-at-Arms going to be able to chase it away, and the Mangoes are holding this hostage. Adjustable crossbars coming in just 20 seconds. Louis has to realize that it's on the verge of completing here. This is not a holdable position.
No, and I think especially because of that melee front line that ended up getting destroyed, right? He's got to back up. One of those Royal Cannons ended up going down. There's a second one that will be there. But remember, it takes 2. I'm pretty sure Siege Works has not been completed by Beasty. So it's going to take 2 of those Royal Cannon hits to one-tap that Mangonel. It takes a little bit of time. And especially if you're spending a lot of oil to do it, you're sacrificing getting things like javelin throwers.
Now, we do have some interesting details here. You might notice there's a tech queued out there for BC. That's going to be the Insta-Pack, which is very useful for Mangoes. But Siege Works is the one you look for, because the reason is the Royal Cannons do more damage. I think it's 20% more damage, hence why he's getting those 2 hits. However, Louis' issue, as has existed for the last few minutes and doesn't really seem to be drastically changing, is a lack of true frontline. Berserk gets activated, and this is simply to try and get the extra Farang in here quicker. The problem is you're now lemminging. You're Congo lining one by one to just fall off the side. So I think Louis, he's so reluctant to give up this territory, but the longer he tries to park here, the better it's getting for Beasty, and it's going to get much better still. We see Horsemen getting queued up.
Look at it's a devastating amount of damage by these mangonels. I mean, I know we've been talking about adjustable crossbars for a long time now. You know, with that upgrade, it's not relatively new. But watching them just take hits over and over again is just devastating. Those Royal Cannons did enough to push them back. But I think we're seeing a very similar situation as another Royal Cannon goes down. We're seeing a very similar situation to what it was before these siege changes. And it's, if you don't have siege, you lose.
So what you're saying is Royal Cannons are the new Springolds. There we go. French OP, let's go. College of Artillery finally getting built. Or you could just pick Byzantine. So there's a lot of Mangoes lost. The tricky part for Beastie is he can keep doing this if he can get the gold. And there we go. That's what he needs to do so. The tricky part here, I think, for Louis is like, if Beastie hadn't committed continuously to diving forward there, I think you could have kept a few Mangoes alive and just reset and wait for the Horsemen. So like there is an element of Beastie jumping the gun, pushing this back. But now with us getting into Horsemen, like you look at Louis' comp, not that great against Horsemen. Like the Varangian are going to be struggling to like protect this, right? Especially with Streltsy following this up. And the other thing is for Louis, if he keeps building cannons, he's not going to be able to afford to replace those lost javelins.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And because he's continuing to do so, right? The second Royal Cannon just hit the battlefield again. He's going to have to try to pick off these mangonels. It's kind of crazy that loueMT isn't bringing some of his own mangonels to the party just because this crossbowman mass... Well, yeah, that is true.
They don't move.
That is true. But just because of, you know, I get the javelin throwers are going to be good against the crossbowmen, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But if you don't have that devastating power to take down a lot of ranged units at one time, I think you're going to perpetually be backing up to those areas where you do have the mangonel, right? To those areas where you have them in those towers. Now, BC does have to push out a little bit. The sacred timer is at 5.5 minutes, so he can't do this forever. But I really like his spot. I like his army composition a lot better. These horsemen are going to most likely take down that Royal Cannon. Are we going to see it? And
yeah, definitely one. It might even end up being 2 here. The villagers get pulled for the repair a little bit too late. Keep in mind, these cost 900 olive oil. They are not cheap to lose, let alone replace. So Beastie gets rid of one of the problems. There was another backup cannon coming, so there's going to still be those 2 hits against the Mangoes. Beastie, he's now switching the Rams. I believe we do have the Wandering Town tech as well, so a little bit more effective for the Rus. He needs to get rid of one of these keeps. Now, the interesting thing is, like, the south side is actually a high value point for both players, and it would pull you away from the cannons, because the gold and the sacred site down here are both of the objectives Beastie needs next.
Yeah, I mean, at least definitely one of these sacreds. Oh my god, that's devastating. To an outpost. It's down already with all of those mangonel hits. He's an animal. The Wandering Town Rams, I'm assuming he's getting some of that technology.
Yep,
that's what you need. You need that, like, you need that building kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. The mangonels are really great dealing with those javelin throwers and stuff. But getting those Rams and taking down these mangonel towers is basically what's holding back your push. Now he's trying to get a raid and trying to go around this area, so you're exactly right. Going to that south side where that gold is, where that sacred site, a couple points of interest that he's really got to take care of.
Yeah, he just needs to send a few Rams down here to try and clear this. It still could be an opening for him, but man, just got to give so much credit to Louis up to this point. Like, these cannons have been carrying this, man. Like, this game should have been over. The Mango play should have just won it for him, but the crafty read to just play into the Royal Cannons, I think it's actually a 30% increase in damage. I still don't think we have Siege Works either, which I'd have to double check the maths. Like, yeah, like, you do 71 damage, right? But Mango with Siege Works should be tanky enough. I think it's 152 HP. They'd be able to survive. So a little bit surprised that Beastie didn't go for that if you want to play Mangoes. We actually have him now switching to trebuchets. It's starting to feel like he's scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he does have this gold that's a little bit safe. I mean, there's the keep there and stuff, but his villagers haven't exactly been idle. So maybe he's worried about trying to get more wood-heavy stuff, right? Those trebuchets are obviously, just with a couple of them, I think they're going to stay alive pretty easily. You have the potential to take down some of those mangonel towers. He's got to push something. He's got to get out. It's 3 minutes now. We're going to hear in about 3 seconds as we're continuing to deal with these raids, Beasty is, you're going to hear that ding ding with 3 minutes left. I think he's got to be smelling a little bit of pressure.
Surges forward here. The 3 mangoes should be able to do a little bit of poke. Siege still being chased away, but the horseman is a trickle, right? We're not seeing that mass that would just get Beasty out here. It just feels like 2,000 food income really isn't cutting at this stage. In the meantime, the Rams are moving north side to try and get maybe a second opening, because what Beasty's realizing is that static mangoes are better than this pile of trash he's wheeling around the battlefield right now. He is losing in this tower defense game.
And you know, you you kind of hit the nail on the head, KP. It feels like you're at this point where you're not battling units anymore. You're just battling buildings. You're battling towers. You're battling keeps, building all of that kind of stuff. And that's what's really stopping any of your pushes. So definitely foreshadowed that castle age with these mangonel towers bringing and bogging the game down, right? This is absolutely going to be doing that. He's using trebuchets to try to take them out from a distance, at least. He sees this north sacred site might be a little bit of an easier area to take down just with that one keep.
Ringing the bell. Less than 2 minutes to go here. Beasty, crap, or get off the pot. The trebuchets are trying to do that keep the north side. Can't really be forced to commit more. And the cannons just come in. The mangoes aren't going to be able to break through this. The Varangian just seem to be carrying these fights as well on the front line. Where Louis was once lacking what he needed to hold these areas, it's starting to piece together. Cannon emplacements alongside the mangoes now in those towers. Sure, the Streltsy may survive afterwards, but Beasty still needs to reach a sacred site after this.
Oh my god, and he's pulling the boys! All those villagers to try to take down that royal cannon.
There's too many towers. Watch what happens. Mango shots come in. Like, this is just a desperation play. This is over. loueMT has done it. He's camped those sacred sites and boxed Beasty in, stopped him from reaching the golden age of the Rus, and guaranteed that we will not be seeing a stomp in this series.
Yep, that is, in my personal opinion, I feel like that was the power of the tower. And absolutely, with those royal cannons doing all of that good damage onto those mangonels. You needed something to pop those mangonels. Louis' micro with those royal cannons was borderline perfect. So now, with all of those cannons, with all of those mangonel towers, all that kind of good stuff, we're tied up, and BC with a resounding 0 olive oil. How do you expect to win if you're not going to get any oil, KP?
I mean, you're an American, so you'd know better than me. I don't...
Okay, dude. Okay. Yeah,
oil wins all, right? I think that's how the whole world works.
Yeah, I mean, probably. And then, I don't know, something colonialism. But take a look. In the middle of this fight here, you had a lot of those mangonels trying to take down that monk. I remember the joke about the War of the Orthodoxies. That was a really good one, actually, KP. I'll commend you on that one. But with the with this kind of little skirmishes, trying to battle for these relics, all of that kind of stuff, it kind of felt like even though BC got 3, Louis was still able to hang out and get a little bit of this map control, and I think it scaled into this sacred site victory later.
Yeah, and like up to the point, BC kind of convinced me. I was sold on the plan, right? Like, get to Imperial on a delay, go mass mangoes, but 2 oversights, right? Like, one is the royal cannon play. We saw these carrying throughout these fights. At one stage, I think like the first initial cannons took out was at 6 mangoes. Just the count kept going up, and there was no siege works on the way. And the reason there's no siege works on the way is the second issue here. The difference in BC's build, you might recall, there was a certain different landmark built in age number 3 than what we're used to seeing. The high trade house would have probably given him the extra gold to get the text together. Instead, he ends up gold starved in this game. Despite what you're seeing in the gold income, he was struggling to move from vein to vein. Just great read and pivot by Louis into the late game, and showing us that he's just as comfortable in Imperial Plus as Beasty is.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I really do love the Abbey, and I think it's really fun to see it. But that high trade house is like, you get probably on Dry Arabia, you might average maybe 115 to 120 gold per minute ish, around there. for Abbey of the Trinity, you make that building. You have to get warrior monks. You go get those relics, and then you bring them back. The High Trade House, you just get gifted a relic and a half before,
Yeah.
like, as the age actually starts. Plus the amount of gold that you're getting afterward with all of the deer and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's an extra 35 gold a minute, right? So like anytime I see a high trade house, I'm like, by the way, actually add 35 gold on. And then you
right.
start to realize, whoa, that's a lot. Infinitely generating. So phenomenal building. The reason why we see it every day of the week. I don't think like we really saw the real plan there, but we'll have to come back to it, dial back to it later, because we might have more religious wars upon us. We hop into moving out. Marlians versus Order of the Dragon. Beasty looked cozy with the HRE, but this isn't the exact same beast. Meanwhile, Marlians has been historically a popular and quite dominant pick on this water-based map.
Yeah, this is quite this is quite an interesting design. This is actually the first time I'm going to be casting on moving out, and I can see why
you're in for a treat.
I can see why it's called it KP, because from my understanding, you're in the middle of the map, right? And you have a dock, and there's maybe like some deep water fish there. But then you, from my understanding, you move out. Is that correct?
Yeah, and this is a very polarizing concept, because if you happen to be the stereotype of a gamer that lives in the basement of his mother's at the age of 40, you don't know what that is. So you'll probably just stay on this island to the end of time. But as you'll learn in life, sometimes you have to leave the nest and spread your wings, because if you don't, you're going to be without gold, without wood as time goes on. So yes, moving out is designed in a way that you can't really stay here. There are a few civs that can, most notably China and Juji, due to taxation. Right? I don't know how they get away with that, but they can just keep regurgitating the same gold in their kingdom without ever leaving this island.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild experience. And I always say this, just from even when I'm playing games by myself, China and Zushi are always kind of odd picks to me, because if you're trying to have fun, why would you include taxes? But maybe that's just the American in me. I don't know.
And you guys have like you have confusing taxing.
Yeah.
Isn't each state?
Let's not. We're
and then like everything seems cheaper at first, but it's all a lie.
Right, and it's just
right.
So with Order of the Dragon, when you're gonna go out to get that gold, some of that in Feudal Age, obviously Louis is gonna want to get that probably as soon as possible because of the pit mines. What kind of things do you see once you get to Feudal Age? Because this has got to be a tremendous amount of chaos.
Yeah, so Marlians have a few interesting plays. Like, if he wants to go and get gold the good old-fashioned way, he could go for a Saharan trade network on the tree line and then scout the other side of the tree line. I actually think that Marlians might end up breaking this map a bit, because with the changes that came in Season 9, you have to remember that Saharan trade network gave you new types of emplacements, the javelin emplacement. So, like, we could theoretically see a bunch of outpost rushing. It's good at also denying on the water. The other interesting thing is, like, Louis, he's going off the pit mine. Realistically, he didn't need to, though. Remember, Marlians, they get gold from fishing now.
Yeah, they do. Actually, that's a very good point. If you wanted to continue to wait to do that, but I guess, shorten up a little bit of gold income isn't the worst thing in the world. And it only takes one villager to do that, right? So he's going to be able to get his farms and get his pit mine once he gets enough wood. And might this transition to a quicker castle age kind of thing?
Yeah, I think you focus on the feudal for now. I wouldn't be surprised if Louis goes for a bunch of outpost rushing. That pit mine is a bit depressing, though. That is like dealing with your state taxes, right? Like, he's only getting half the value that he thinks he is.
Man,
it's unfortunate as well, because if he went a bit further north, there was a better one.
There
Louis
was
trying to body block here. It's cute, but hard.
Really harboring the tax thing. I see. I'm ready. Oh my god, I'm ready to throw some tea into the river. I swear.
Hey, you do that, the taxes are going up by another 5%. Okay.
Great. My stamps are expensive. The ability for Louis, obviously, you have one of those big pit mines that are able to do that. Now, you talked about the Saharan trade network a little bit. Do you see? Obviously, with this wood line, you have the ability to do that. So Mansa Quarry pretty much not in play anymore, for the most part.
I mean, it really comes down to his overarching strategy. If you go Mansa, it gives you more pressure on water, but if you go Saharan, it gives you more pressure on land. The tricky part is, like, I think players over time, when they start to get outpost rush, they just realize go to the mainland, silly. Like, why are we doing this to ourselves? So, Louis might see the Saharan trade network as a bit cheesy, and Order of the Dragon can still thrive off of the mainland island, but it would deny a lot of value with this Arkin now coming in. Beasty, never a believer in mine work, and to be honest, I don't see any reason why water would ever make you a believer in mine work with the dragons. It's kind of bad.
Right. Yeah. And with the Aachen giving that little bit of wood economy, right? I mean, Beasty already has a scout over there taking hits on some of the pit mines, but that Aachen Chapel, obviously, it's not. We don't think it is as good as an HRE Aachen Chapel because of the amount increase that you get for each villager. But it's nice that you don't have to put a prelate in it. So you have the ability to really carve through that wood line, and you're going to have a wood economy that's a little bit better than the Malians at this point.
Yeah. So with Manta coming in, I mean, Louis is keeping the villager out here. He has scouted north side. So the second pit mine is very organic, very good. Beasty's not going to be able to contest that. It's going to be too busy on water. We already have the first archer ship coming out. And Beasty, he has kept gold workers on the mainland, but if I'm not mistaken, he only has maybe 2 there. So that doesn't give you a lot of potential to swing your eco, right? Like if this turns into, say, a lot of springolds, you can't just blob demos like there's no tomorrow.
Right. And I mean, even the springold ships, if I remember correctly, cost a little bit of gold too. Obviously, demos are going to be quite expensive in the gold department, but that's a pretty interesting thing with the water changes, even though they're not necessarily new, is you need all 3 resources. It's not just a bunch of wood and a little bit of gold. You actually need a little bit of food too. So making that fishing to stay alive is proving to be a big deal. Now, Louis' fishing isn't really that much alive. He's got to back up with a lot of those fishing canoes and wait for that war canoe to come out.
Really cool direction that BC came from as well. He circled south side because that's the backup fishing location. You may notice, like, moving out, it's not as much a straight line between us as it is like Zoro with hand cramps trying to do a Z. So with that in mind, like, you have one side that's considered yours and one side that isn't on the north and south. So that's why Beasty went around the south, is the fishing going north doesn't do anything for Louis. Whereas south, he could have just set up his second dock organically.
Yeah, and I think Beasty did a good job of putting down that second dock, right? He's got that other one right on the south side, so those reinforcements can come out pretty quickly if he needs to. He's continuing to get some of those springold ships. He's using a scout to take down this pit mine still, because that villager not really doing anything about it. Now starting to add a military building. And now I'm seeing where this chaos can kind of start. Right, Beasty already has a barracks. He added a spearman, so he might be able to try to torch down some of those pit mines in those houses.
Yeah, so one thing you'll learn about this map, Tim, is there's been a few players that have been vocal about their hate for this map. Well, viewers love it. I love casting it. Like this, you mentioned it, chaos is the key thing. Like, you know, this is definitely a map that is not fun to play, but it's hella fun to watch because it always throws a wrench in the works here. So we're now going to have both players focusing a little bit on the outskirts, but there's also going to be penetration into the tree line coming through. So there's probably going to be a race in a second for both of them to get outposts up here.
Yeah, and I think just because, and you can see it definitely on the Order of the Dragon side, right? I think there's definitely more. A lot. Yeah, I mean, that Aachen Chapel, we just talked about, you know, wood economy, you know, all that kind of stuff for Beasty, and it's really showing with the amount of stumps that are on the eastern side as compared to the western. So definitely some outposts that can get up there. He has the ability to, if he wanted to get a little bit of stone, and it looks like he will be starting to do that now. So it looks like outposts are in the near future, and getting stuff like arrow slits, fortifying them, all that kind of stuff to make Louis' life hell.
Demo ship play coming in now from Beasty. He has also queued up men-at-arms on the mainland. Bit tricky for Louis considering he went for the archery range. This is kind of where he has to pivot now and go into a stables play if he really wants to counter, right? Because we've had to deal with archers into spears, but then he needs Sofa to deal with the men-at-arms probably is the best call of action. It's difficult though at this stage, right? Like when all focus is on water, I'd say one men-at-arms just gets a lot more value than anything equivocal the mines could buy.
And, you know, this is why I love what you just described is one of the reasons why I love a map like this, right? As a spearman is trying to take down some of the archers and javelin throwers, but you're dealing with this on land and you're trying to figure out what to do on land while at the same time trying to micro everything on water to make sure that you continue to have the fishing. So you got to keep your head on a swivel everywhere at once. You see that demo ship just remaining a little bit idle. Maybe he could have got a good hit, but decided to back up. No arrow ship to help out Beasty if a demo ship was able to get there. But Louis did add a second dock a little bit to the north. So obviously instead of that south dock, he added one to the north and might be trying to see some kind of reinforcements coming up that way instead.
Well, he did get this one online. Shivs are going to be out, so that poor little villager should be going down. Let's Oh, he grabs him 2 HP, gets out of there. So we'll survive. Now, on the mainland, we still have the scout revealing what's happening over here. The reality, though, is like Louis can't afford to get enough troops to go around the flank. We already have the men-at-arms marching from the south side, 2 of them, in fact, so they should be able to deal with the Javs. Louis has got a very interesting lead on Springolds right now, but he feels a little bit one-dimensional, right? Like, one archer ship, a double demo could easily go awry here, especially if Louis doesn't stay in range of his docks. Because if he's close to them, remember, he gets that 15% movement speed buff.
Yeah, and especially if you micro them correctly, right? With the one arrow ship, obviously it takes 2 full arrow volleys on average to kind of get it down, right? So getting a couple of them, demo ships, you're able to work your way around, maybe take down some of the Springald ships. And we even have a little bit of outpost fighting in the middle. The first toll outpost from the Malians ends up getting there. He's adding another dock as well. Let's see what he could do with some of these demos. Maybe you might want to space them out. One demo might be going down. It looks like he wasn't quite prepared to take that engagement. And all of a sudden, that demo boost that he was going to have throughout this fight is gone. I don't think Beasty has the numbers for this.
No, the dock drop guarantees he needs to retreat. And we do have Mustafadi finally coming out, so there you go. Beasty is going to find his way to being countered here. And I don't really know if you can now justify adding in, say, archer range as well. I say it's going to be counted. The awkward part is I think you need... I haven't done the test on this. I feel like the number is going to be 3 Mustafadi to be a Guild of Men-at-Arms. But he's very kind about this. He's letting them have that fight one by one. Yeah,
yeah,
still a little bit of a stress test.
I mean, we know one's not going to do it, right? But the Mustafadi, oh my god, that was a very theatric flop.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it took longer to kill the wolf there. Jesus, chill, guys.
But now BC's starting to shift up KP a little bit to this northern side. Louis did get naval arrow slits, which is something that I think is incredibly slept on a lot of the times. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it as much as they should because, again, this is something else where the dock becomes an outpost a little bit as naval arrow slits just comes in for Beasty on the south side, but it might be a little bit too late to the point where, again, it bogs this down a little bit.
Wow, it's almost like we're not going to see that dock die. Good old repairs coming in and ruining your plans here. It's interesting, actually, because the Manticore gave him the flexibility to get his arrow slits in a way that, like, Beasty has limited economy on the mainland to do the same, right? Like, that's why Louis should theoretically always be a bit quick with arrow slits. But Beasty has pivoted over now, right? Like, he is gathering on that stone. I think he is shuffling more of his villages to the mainland over the coming minutes. I feel as if this is starting to favor Beasty a bit, mainly because of, like, the water situation, right? Like, Louis hasn't been able to force idle eco yet. Neither of them are actually fishing the north or south side right now. I think that tree line, like the way that BC is able to rush outposts up could give him favorability. You have to remember the Order Dragon villages build substantially faster, right?
Well, the thing of it is, KP, and that's what our wonderful observer is alluding to. Beasty's killed 8 Malian villagers throughout the course of this, whether it be outposts, fishing boats, or the like. When you're dealing with an Order of the Dragon as an opponent who has a higher economic count than you, you're in a bind, to put it lightly.
But I have pit mines. I even have an 8K pit mine tip. Yeah, but like
right.
You've even got Beasty in a chill state that he's adding farms on the island, right? Like, that's how comfortable he is with the state of his economy. So, like, you know, he could have probably blobbed extra military vessels, but that just gives a counterplay of mass demos to wipe you out. I like this approach, man. And we're also seeing additional stone being gathered. I don't want to say 2TC, but, like, it might organically become that with the gathering of Beasty.
Yeah, and I mean, just to have that little bit of gold trickle, you can see how, oh my god, the amount of wood per minute Beasty's getting. He's hovering at about like 1100, which is insane. But you're right with that little bit of stone trickle. Obviously, you can get a little bit of a surplus, and then you start to add a town center. But if Beasty just continues to make things like outposts and continues to add arrow slits to them, right, it's going to be to the point where Louis has to send just about all of his villagers out, and that's idle time that you don't want to afford, especially when you're trying to make all these boats. Now, taking a fight by the Malian dock, it looks like for Springald ships. Oh my god, look at this. 5 demo ships trying to come in, and it looks like they won't end up getting that hit.
So it was a bit deceptive. The archer ships actually blocked a lot of the potential there, right? But like he still takes out one of the Springals and mits all that with just a single demo. Like, this is the trickiness of those double docks to the north side. Like, Beasty, I want to say maybe just on land, building a ram might work a lot better here. Kind of a sleeper play. But, you know, you have to find your way to blacksmiths. Neither player's done that yet. It definitely would give him that clearance right now, though, because I think this becomes a harder and harder position to penetrate the longer this goes on. The alternative is he clears the north dock, and then he can get his double fishing going.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the south side is the one that's under the most contention, but because of all the docks that are here, you know, especially out of the Malian side, because there's 2 docks there, I would imagine. I don't know if there's arrow slits on the second one, but there might be pretty soon. It could be an avenue just to go ahead and pivot everything. You know, you probably don't think that you're going to be as victorious if you're dealing with double Malian dock. You have that healing potential and the arrow slits. It's going to be difficult. So I don't know how much Beasty is going to want to beat his head against this wall, but he's taken another fight against the Malian player. Demo ships are coming in on the north side. Archer ships are trying to find them, starting to go down. It looks like those demos might actually trade with each other, but one solid demo hit takes him down. Military count for Beasty, though, still continuing to be elevated, and he's on the Malian production, so he might be able to stop something from happening.
Yeah, he's getting hit in the corner. Louis is taking this fight intentionally now because he did raid in, but Beasty rushed up an outpost, so minimize the losses. It's still going to be free worker kills, but great little raid there in that big engagement from Louis. Just a handful of Musafadi paying off.
And with all of it, I mean, this is what moving out's all about, right? This is why the players hate it, but we just absolutely love it because you're dealing with all the time. You're dealing with 4 different things at once, right? That big naval engagement plus that raid, and the best players are going to do some of that stuff at exactly the same time to split your opponent's mental bandwidth.
Still, it's damage needed, but not damage to get you ahead yet, right? Like, Beasty still feels economically in the lead here. We've got more and more of both players' economies moving to the mainland, so expect to see additional raids coming. Louis has at least walled himself in, but that outpost by Beasty was the first effort of defense, right? Like, he didn't want to go walling. So that is going to offer up ways for Louis to keep raiding. Maybe even just adding in 1 or 2 sofas could actually become profitable here.
And, you know, if you're... A question for you. I mean, with Beasty, he's just incrementally throwing in men-at-arms, spearmen, all that kind of stuff. Would you kind of pivot towards something ranged? You know, he does have an archer. He's got a couple javelin throwers, Musafadi, but I feel like he's going to have some archers backing him up if these men-at-arms are going to do anything.
The problem is, like, you said there, your opponent has javelins, right? You never want to be building gilded archers here.
Yeah.
The option could be horsemen. Like, right now, Louis doesn't have a counter to horsemen, and those come in quick enough that, like, as a second layer to your attack, it could do damage. My issue is it takes way too long to burn through these walls. That being said, Beasty seems to have broken through on the south side of that wall in, and now is poking on that north side, has secured the second fishing pack. This is starting to pull away from Louis. If he cannot block this fishing now, this is going to snowball.
Yeah, and this north side is going to be a very contentious point because on the south side, Louis has those 2 docks, right? So he pivoted. And now Beasty is the one, if loueMT wants to take a fight over on the northern side, he's going to be dealing with 2 Order of the Dragon docks that they could get naval arrow slits, but they also have emergency repair because I would imagine that everything in Beasty's base is connected. So now, with all of these fishing boats in here, 60 economic units, Beasty's continued to be surplus on economy. And maybe we're seeing a little bit of a horde into Castle Age. Check his resources out.
Yeah, it looks inevitable at this stage, and that should be readiness on the mainland. Has an added benefit of now dividing your landmark locations. So let's say Louis takes control of the main island. He can't kill you. Actually, I always have this debate. I don't even think this is the main island, right? The mainland is on the outskirts.
Yeah, this is the kind of... It feels like a little bit of an oasis maybe in the middle. And he doesn't put that Burgrave on the island, on that oasis part of the middle of the island. He puts that right by his side on the eastern area. So he's looking to flood because with the Malians, all of that resources, that gold is coming from the pit mines that are over there, right? So he's going to be adding a bunch of military in there to try to take down all the buildings.
Also, just think about this. One Landsknecht clears everything, right? That Landsknecht is going to be swiping harder than someone on Tinder 8 hours a day, right? Like, it's going to be crazy. And the reality is that Louis can't get a quick, clean counter to it because he didn't have a huge blob of archers. Flash coming in on the south side here. Beasty continues to press. It's keeping Louis invested, keeping him the age, keeping him away from mirroring this. And the added neat benefit for Beasty is it doesn't just have to be Burgrave. He could also consider just adding in a siege workshop on the main island, getting 1 or 2 trebs, and then forcing a win condition down Louis' throat.
Oh, yeah, and especially with the outposts, you're going to have the site, right? So Louis had to move just about the majority of his villagers, if not most of them, to try to get some of this wood over there. So that creates a little bit of idle time. Beasty's hitting Castle Age. Louis is obviously not. at this time, so he could get some of those Castle Age Navy kind of improvements for his spring-old ships, and maybe that turns the tide, pun intended.
Yeah. And, well, if you want to be king of the pond, right, the biggest one is going to be the extra armor in these type of engagements near the stand defenses. So, Louis, on the clock, I don't think he can just rush a tech up. He's actually bulked quite a lot of military troops on the mainland. Beasty, he's still going for men-at-arms here. It's kind of peculiar, because I do think Lance would just be the golden goose. There's the armored hulls. Like, this is the thing that should be able to start cracking through.
Yeah,
so many dogs.
You're definitely right with adding those 1 or 2 Lance connected there, but I think just because of his gold, like he's so focused on the water, right? He's continuing to stay focused on the water, so he's just going to keep doing these men-at-arms. He doesn't really want to think about, I feel like he doesn't want to think about too much on the land side, because if he wins water, he does win this game.
Well, jump on the tree line on the north side. Looks like some more losses for Louis there. And there's a wraparound towards the fishing. This is all a distraction. Beasty pushing from 2 different angles. He goes in for the outpost rush, but he also has a movement onto the fishing boats of Louis as well. So this fight is all just a distraction to get rid of Louis' food source. And without this, he has no food income at all.
That is a huge problem. Because remember, you need every one of those resources to actually make these boats. So Louis might be a little bit ahead when it comes to military, right? But a lot of that of what he has seems to be on land with those Musafati and those javelin throwers. So he's definitely behind on the Navy.
King of the Pond scum over here, the Order of the Dragon are just ruling all. You see Louis, he's already prepping his troops to attack in the eastern corner with that ramp play, but it just doesn't matter, right? Like, if you can't get an age up at this rate, you're just going to lose in the center of the map. So great, firm handshakes. You know, you'll have access to these resources out here, which he's moved on to. But BC can just then thrive off of all the fish around this zone.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, with the fishing economy that you have, it just means you're going to be able to pump even more things out of that Burgrave, depending on it if it actually stays alive. And you're seeing the torches go in. Rams are trying to hit some of those outposts, and they might end up going down. But at the same time, looking on the back end, there might be a little bit of micro from Louis' side. Oh, might be a little not of micro coming out of Beasty's side. A couple spring-old ships go down, and that's going to maybe push him back.
Build a Lance. Build a... I mean, just one. But honestly, just one Lance net, because the problem with this Gilded Men-at-Arms play is that the Musafati should be able to compete with it well, but it looks like, actually, credit to him, I thought Beasty was sending the Men-at-Arms down the south side. He was camping down here, so 5 of them actually should be capable of mopping this up. Water side, it's looking like Louis is sort of holding due to the health bars of Beasty, but the issue is you can't just hold. You need to push, right? And when you look behind this, you have to realize now we're approaching a point where we might actually see Beasty trying to go for a 3rd fishing spot while Louis is fishing none.
Yeah, and that's kind of the... I feel like Louis, he did this all in, especially in Feudal. He did this all in on water. He did this all in on land with all of the boats that he had. So he kind of tried to do a couple different fronts here, but I think we're just seeing how important that Order of a Dragon economy is, where he was able to continue to produce enough ships while going to castle and at the same time repelling on land. Now, Louis, it doesn't really matter if you're on water, if you're on land, you don't have anywhere to go on this map.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, like, for people who would rather see water gone, they must really hate Order of the Dragon, because it feels like this is the only way we usually see this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of the situations. I remember, you know, back in previous tournaments, a lot of people would go Order of the Dragon because HRE would always get banned, right? And Order of the Dragon is like, well, it's kind of like HRE light, you know? It kind of does a similar thing, but we're showing how important that wood economy is and how it translates to a navy.
Yeah, and BC now has the trebuchets coming, so it'll be a siege on the landmarks. He's like, if Louis isn't going to voluntarily leave, I'll just force him out. He was already forced off of that push in Burgrave. Now to 7 men-at-arms on that mainland. This is over. Louis doesn't really have an easy way of coming back in. It's just more on Beasty to close the game.
Yeah, I think what's interesting here, too, because of all of the spring-old ships in the Navy continuing to be superior, is you can still take hits on a lot of the buildings that the Malians might be relying on income with, the Mansa Quarry, some of these houses, all that kind of stuff, as the Navy ends up getting wrapped up. So the Trebs obviously going to take down some of the land buildings, and the Navy will be wrapping everything else up. That landmass on the north side is going to be, if it's not destroyed, it will be soon. And this is looking like KP. It's looking like your ball game.
it's looking like Order of the Durgan is going to win, which is a very rare sight. I mean, Malians have definitely kind of come down a few rankings in recent times, but Order is an area where they specifically got buffed, right? Like with the gold being returned to the fishing. Just well played by Beasty, though. I think those early exchanges, the outpost rush up on the tree line was pivotal. And then just the distraction tactics, like a little bit questionable with the opening racks play. It didn't feel like it had as much of an impact. But maybe the impact was drawing Lou's attention, where he needed to be looking at water. He was too busy looking at land.
Yeah, and it could be a difference if what he was doing on land did make an impact, right? Say he was able to take that Burgrave down and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that keeps Louis and continues for him to have at least a little bit of a foothold onto this game. But now that starting town center will be going down rather quickly. And remember, with Louis still being in Feudal, he's only got 2 landmarks left, and they are right next to each other.
But don't worry, kids. It's time to build an empty Lani. I mean, can you really go Farimba with no empty Lani? Here we go.
Let me see where that's going. Oh my god. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's going to need a little bit of a food economy now that he doesn't have fishing anymore. But is red meat the healthiest choice when you've got a pescatarian on the other side?
It's tricky. I think there's a higher chance of him dying by dragon than dying of a heart attack. So I'd eat the steak and just take my chances here. We actually have Beasty. No. Timing on this. He's got Trebs behind this as well. I think he's going to die before he gets it up.
Oh my god. The photo finish.
I mean, the photo finish is just actually a black screen for Louis there. Didn't even get a chance to try and live any longer. So Beasty saves us this turning into a 35-minute game. 2-1 now, on the verge of winning this for match point. Louis, I mean, this game, I think it went to a point where the outcome was obvious the last 6 or 7 minutes. I don't know if you need that long to think through all the intricacies of what map you pick next, what you do next. So maybe this did get a little bit of burny outy for him. But before anyone says it's X o'clock in China, Louis is going to be tight, guys. No, Louis has forged himself into a degen. He actually thrives in the window between midnight and 6 a.m. I think he's driven forward by the idea of breakfast soon.
Yeah, he was born in it. He was molded by it. And now we're seeing a little bit of some naval replays that we have while this is going on. I did want to take a little bit of attention to the resources gathered on both sides. Beasty had a tremendously higher amount of wood. I think it was 23,000 to 15,000. So yeah, that's going to mean you get more boats. And we're seeing what happens when somebody has more boats than the other side.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that maybe he shouldn't be picking lion for his flag. I think his creature animal after this game might be a beaver. That was pretty ridiculous. Like the lead that he leveraged, you could see he was intentionally chopping through the tree line at a targeted point as well. We saw it early in the game, right? Like he was just beelining for it. So clearly had that timing in mind. The cool thing about taking that approach is you can roughly predict when you'll get through. Your opponent doesn't know for sure. So that should always give you kind of a leg up. If you pull that together with like a push on water, you can always just get distraction tactics into outpost rush, which is what built Beasty a very healthy lead early on.
Oh, you're exactly right. Yeah, because in the middle of this, while some of this was going on in Feudal Age, I remember pointing out that there were eight worker kills, that Beasty was ended up getting. So that economy lead, he never shifted away from it. And obviously there was a little bit just because of the fishing boats, obviously. It definitely makes an impact a little bit later, and we're going to see that Grand Fulani Corral not get completed. What's up? Talk to me.
So you said we had a photo finish, right? Now,
well,
how wide is the lens we're using for this photo finish?
I'm going to go with, just because we're on water, I'm going to say it's a fisheye lens. How about that?
Okay, there you go. It has to be, right? Like you've got who's hitting bolt just run over the line, and then just about 200 meters behind him is the Fulani attempt trying to catch up. A little bit of a brutal one there for Louis, but look at this. He's going to the Ottomans. This civ has actually been surprising me on Lakeside. We're running in the midweek muster weeklies. A few players were gravitating towards it. Louis was one of them. I think we saw Cat do it a lot as well. actually surprisingly effective. Ottoman Iabids is kind of a meaningful matchup, Tim. It's like you're a first generation fridge. You know, you can hold ice cubes in you in the freezer part. You can store
Mhm.
food, and
Mhm.
that is being Ottomans with your Imam healer boys.
Okay.
And then it's like meeting your future fridge, which comes with a smart screen installed in it. It can remind you of what you need to fill in, what you're missing. It'll also order on Amazon as well.
Mm.
That's playing Ibids with dervishes. So I'm hoping we're not gonna see Louis take the bait and go into the Healy Boy strat because it's been looking pretty good for IU when they go that way.
Huh. So pretty much the fridge your girlfriend tells you not to worry about, I guess.
Yeah,
With
pretty
that one.
much. You're like,
Uh,
What's this? Why are you getting beer out of that fridge? What's wrong with my little cooler over here? My uh what bucket full of ice? It's just not the same, Tim. It's just not the same.
and then it turns into a lake, right? Because it melts. So with
It's just
the
not the
Ottomans,
same.
with the Ottomans being on lakeside though, like have you seen success with the Ottoman? Because they are,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they're not in a good spot. It feels like, and it feels like professional consensus also says Ottomans aren't really that awesome currently.
I mean, you've just got to build springles,
Oh,
apparently.
okay.
That's what I've been learning, the games that have been melting my mind. But let's see if you can melt a mind in this one. loueMT with the Otto boys in game number 4, going up against Beasty and the Iabids. Both of these picks, I think, have been finding similar win percentages in competitive play on Lakeside. So anyone's game, really. I think Louis, with the Ottomans here, you're probably looking to open with Sipahi. One thing I've been noticing with Ottomans of recent is that they don't really go military schools until very deep in Castle Age, especially on this map.
You know, it's kind of crazy how much this one deep water fish is that vastly important on a map, right? The ability, like, just having that one spot where you get a couple fishing boats, it just like ends up being the reason
Yeah.
why you're playing it almost.
And both of them get discounted docks, right? It's a bit better for Beastie. And we shouldn't really be surprised Beastie's going for this. Like you said, he's a pescatarian.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is. And it's just, for me, it just shows how powerful water actually is. And it's a really stark contrast I've seen to something like AoE 2, where you have obviously docks and fishing boats, but they're bringing back 10 food at a time. And you have
Yeah.
some of these boats that you're making, obviously they're 75 wood, but the fact that you're able to get that much food, you're able to drop off 40 at a time, it means that the rest of this map, at least for a little bit of time, doesn't matter except those 2 spots on the water. Now, I was in a stream. I can't remember if it was, I think it was Puppy Paw, actually. Shout out to Puppy Paw. We're going to be seeing him play a little bit later. I remember him talking about this map, and he was like, yeah, there's water on it, and there's one piece of fish. So that's what I care about.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. This map is a bit of a douchebag. So
Okay,
on the north
what did it do
side,
to you, dude?
well, it hits you over the head no matter the choice you make. Because here's the thing: you go for the fish, and then you lose water, and it goes, "You idiot! Why didn't you pro scout? There's like 32 deer all on the south side." And then you do next thing you do pro scouts. It goes, "You idiot! Why did you pro scouts? There's fish on the north side." So like, it's very weird the way this one is played out. Because at first, when Lakeside started getting played, there was a balance over the value of deer versus fish because it's only one deep water fish. But then players evolved. You know how they are. They got to find the optimal strategy. Now the optimal strategy is, if I can win water quick enough, I'll build a transport ship. I'll come across to your side. I'll build a dock there as well. And now it most definitely was worth going for fishing, right? So it's kind of sad the way that this map has evolved. I've seen a few players try to do bait and switches, but the vast majority of the time, whoever wins water wins this map.
Yeah, I mean, it's stereotypical for most water maps, to be honest with you. And now with Beastie going up, I'm pretty sure he went for that culture wing that was relatively cheap. I'm pretty sure it was that 225, 125, something like that. So with him going up that quickly, obviously with the Iabids, you can continue to mine and get all of the resources that you need. That House of Wisdom is going to be churning that out for you. It just means you're going to get that quick feudal age. You're going to get that quick boat. and then you're going to get over there and start killing some stuff before Louis has the ability to do anything of the feudal age, because that Sultani trade network is about halfway done.
And Louis apparently wants to do military schools. Please tell me it's military schools. 2TC Ottoman would definitely be an ambitious direction to take this one in.
Yeah, to town center. I mean, we kind of talked about this in previous games. Now this is on land, you know, and this is a little bit of water here. But that second town center was just like, I don't know. It just seems too slow and not really going to happen. So now
that's interesting. I think he's just doing this for arrow slits and he doesn't want to touch water. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? Because the whole idea is Beasty's going double dock. He's probably going to add 3 boats at least before he realizes what's really happening here. And then presumably Lou's going to try fast castle with Anatolian hills to give him the food to do so.
So he's going for that old little bait and switch. Kind of halfsies, you know, because of the fact that you're getting the naval arrow slits. You could just forego it completely, but it's definitely going to stop Beasty in his tracks just a little bit. You know, it just means that you can't just barrel through. You can't just park a springled ship there and it ends up going down. So hopefully it'll give Louis a little bit of time. And of course, he went with 3 boats, 3 fishing boats over there on that side, so he could just park them all in the dock.
You know, I'm just going to say it. This map is absolute pants. No, really. If you rotate the map...
I know. I got it. No, it is definitely giving me some trouser vibes, that's for sure. And you see that arrow ship, right? You see that arrow ship trying to come in, do some damage to some fishing boats? With that arrow slits, I don't think he really needs to spend a lot of economy on boats. I think Louis is going to have the upper hand here in this game 4 as we're starting this feudal.
Yeah, because the cool thing as well is if BC really wants to contest this now, he has to pull fishing boats or do this really, really slowly. It's sad either way for him. And also, you know, the whole point in doing advancement wing is to get the big edge on water. So Louis essentially nullified the point of the Iabid tech choice entirely. So if this just turns into a castle mirror now, you're going to be so far behind Louis. Like, you can already see he's halfway. You know, the only awkward thing here is going to be he won't have an optimal timing into the imam points, right? Because he hasn't really been producing much.
I guess it's kind of nice, too, because Beasty doesn't have that opportune time for the dervish either, because he already used the culture wing, right? Yeah. So maybe that gives him a little bit of time that even though, you know, that imam vizier point might not come in until a little bit later, he might have a little bit of time to actually get there. So with Beasty spending, he's got 2 springboard ships out there. He's got a demo ship. He got an arrow ship. How many resources that is on the water just to stop this from happening? He's got to be using demo ships, and that's what he does. He's going to come in contact with that dock, maybe wait for the fishing boats to come out, or maybe take it down. But Louis is going to get a little cheeky with the demo ship over of his own.
Now, this is interesting. Louis went for the imam point, but I don't think he had Anatolian hills, right? That's why I thought it was going to be later. Like, we're going to have to check if Louis actually has enough food to pull this off, because it looks like he's not going to be able to fish any longer. Demo ship, not quite able to get the kill. The fishing boats will be able to heal this up. They get out of range in time. Yeah, I don't think he has much food. He's on berries already, so this is a very thin line that Louis is walking here.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. And berries, obviously, we know the gather rate of berries, or lack thereof, I should say, just because of how slow it is. Because of that imam point first. Because you're right, Anatolian Hills, getting all of those sheep is so critical. These demo ships from Louis really aren't doing too much, but at least they're delaying. They're making Beasty back up. They're making him repair his ships. Another ship ends up going down. He can hit the demo ship, which will explode right in his face anyway. But at least Louis will be getting up to castle age with the MIA. Is Beasty even close?
He's stockpiling now. I mean, I think MIA needs to go MIA from the meta. I think the Imperial Pass option is low-key strong. Kind of surprised we actually still haven't seen the switch, but maybe B's antics trying to get people to do springles is converting them. Meanwhile, Beasty, prematurely, has already come across... Wait, no, Beasty, it's not time yet. It's definitely not time. Demo comes out. Luckily, he ungarrisoned on the correct side of the boat. There's going to be a waste there. But realistically, like, what you want here is like an archer ship or a springle ship to clear this up. You don't want Beasty to get this dock online. The interesting part, like, Beasty, this should just be a growth wing, right? I don't think you have to get too creative with this.
Yeah, getting those extra villagers is obviously...
Are you kidding me?
Oh my god.
Okay, this is kind of low-key busted because the naval arrow slits protect you against boats, but there's nothing to counter the villager. So he's just able to get full repairs here. He's like, okay, I'm done with you. Wait, Johnny on the back, like, come over here. I'll repair you too.
Villagers, oh, you're looking a little worse for wear, aren't you? Let me just get that hammer, build you right back up there, Sonny. And that dock will finally go down. loueMT now in Castle Age, so we'll be using those E-bombs to grab some of those relics that then you got to think about for Louis. Now that Castle Age has hit, you do have to make some military eventually. What do you think he's going to choose?
What, for Louis? It's weird because you don't necessarily want to open Lancers against Ivids, right? Like this matchup has some weird dynamics because usually you want to open Lancer with Ottos and Castle Age. You can't really do it here. But you also shouldn't have to worry about Camel Lancers because of the Janissaries. So like, it's a weird game because recently when I've been seeing this matchup, Ottomans play Feudal a bit and build a few Sipahi. I'm expecting them just to go stables for the wallop of trying to hit economy, but it is going to make it very easily counterable here for Beasty.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because they're both kind of anti-cavalry civs together. So any of them that make any kind of cavalry, whether it has humps or otherwise, somebody has the counter for it. You know, so these Janissaries, though, once you get those military schools, you get them buffed up, you're getting those Janissaries out essentially for free. My God, because they are quite an expensive unit. You get a mass of those, you're in trouble.
It just takes so long to get military schools online from this position.
I know.
Imams are at least racing for the good.
Hey, you
Imams
forgot
are
something.
at least racing for the goodies. Imams are like, I think he's deaf.
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. No? Okay.
Someone throw a camel at him. He's not paying attention. So it looks like the Imam. There we go. He's finally noticed the problem.
Yeah, it's something. I think his compass was a little whacked out, but he'll get that religious artifact eventually. Hopefully, we'll be making it safe for Louis' perspective. I think he was just waiting on getting that moss to actually drop those relics in. So once he's able to drop them in, it's going to be beneficial. It's kind of interesting because for the Ivids, this is usually... Oh, my God. This Imam's got a death wish, dude.
Okay. He not only has he got the earphones on, he's definitely blindfolded right now. Desert Raid is also coming in, so it's going to get even worse. loueMT isn't going to be able to get that relic home. Wow, I love the hesitance. He's like, he might try to wallow me. I don't want him to.
Imam was like, I'm just done. Like, you can have it, dude. He's not dealing with it anymore. Second relic's going to go in to the mosque, and it's pretty interesting because we're used to Ayyubids seeing dervishes and all of that kind of stuff to get those relics super quickly, but Ottomans were the first ones to do it just because of that Imam. So definitely like what Louis' play was with the arrow slits. Now it's Beasty's time to get this to pay off, right? If he's getting the 2 areas of deep water fish, is he going to escalate that food economy into something devastating?
All right, this is a bit tricky. Beasty is just pumping camel lancers. We talked about why this isn't a great idea. The problem, though, on the other side is Louis has literally only built Janissaries. Now, this is kind of like when someone goes, I don't know why my spear doesn't counter this knight, right? Like, you need more. The initial wave's going to be good, but, like, realistically, this early on, just pumping raw Janissaries with no second component, surely Beasty just goes archers now. Well, there you go.
I was gonna say he's got to make something else. You know, you can't just keep throwing cavalry into a janissary problem and expect it all to be okay. You know, now that you're going archers, you have an ability to maybe use something else with the food that you have. Maybe you have a possibility for gulams if you want to, but just for the fact that janissaries are on the battlefield and now continuing to mass up, it just feels like cavalry is a no-go.
Yeah, and there's a big problem here for Louis because now with archers getting added in, the counter is pretty obvious. Let's just build cavalry ourselves. Have a look at Louis's food.
If you can find it, right? Maybe
there.
they just start eating people at this rate. I don't know, like, or just eating hope. That's the only thing that's going to keep them alive because the berries are about to run out. BC has double food. There's still camel answers, so you can't just ride out blind to these berries and deer, right? I almost feel like pro scouts might have been justified here.
I was actually going to say that, and I thought I was going to get a lot of slack, not only from you, but also in chat, because going for a 13-minute pro scouts doesn't seem like the best idea in the world. But you have the janissaries to kind of make sure your scouts don't get tracked down by cavalry. And if you don't get safe food soon, you are going to get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, it's also very themic, you know? Just like hunting deer with a gun.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, I feel like I'm in my backyard, you know, with an orange jacket on.
That's the most American thing you've said to me.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm going to crack a beer.
So We do have supply coming in. How many military schools is he at right now? Is he starting to layer them? Is it free? Yeah, free.
Yeah.
So, like, we're kind of getting there to the point where he can maybe get an army to hold back what Beasty's doing. But I correct me if I'm wrong. What Beasty's doing might be Imperial Age rush with Desert Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an option for that. I feel like he definitely has an opportunity to strike, though. You know, I mean, he's continuing to build those archers, which is obviously beneficial for him. But I feel like you just want to pile up all of the units because you know that Louis is confined to his base and doesn't have the fish you do, right? So you got to feel like you have some economic advantage here.
Oh, thank God. He's actually adding more units. So I'm trying to figure out, like, this is what I mean about this matchup is very weird. Like, Louis has bypassed the stage to just build janissaries. So, like, realistically, you want to build archers, but the mangoes are now a problem. So it's almost like what Beasty needs is manjaniques of his own. Yes, there's Sapahi coming, but, like, how does Louis, with this amount of food, or rather lack of food, get them quickly? Right? I think there's a really good timing here for Beasty if he just starts adding in manjaniques, because they're also phenomenal at scudding an entire army. Because, like, mangoes, you can dodge their rocks, right? But giant, fiery crap from the sky, a lot harder to dodge, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, and it's just because the area effect that's on them, right? Just because those rocks are on fire, they end up scattering a little bit more. I'm not really sure how that works, but the physics of it is beyond me. The ability for you to do...
think about it, like, if you were on fire, you'd run away from everything screaming. So, like, I think the logic is all the stuff on fire is running away from... I don't get it either.
Oh, they're, like, scared of each other. I get it. And, you know, that would make a lot of sense if it wasn't a rock. If it was a person... then I would definitely get that. But I'm not, I don't really know. Now, Louis trying to get some of this outside food. You saw some of these deer. He's got an outpost. He's got a mill. This is something that if Beasty spots, and it looks like he might, he is beelining his way down to the south side. The problem is that stealth forest might create a little bit of a problem for him, and some of these villagers might go down.
Lance is charging in here. You notice he didn't want to fight because the mangoes wouldn't have a good position for it. So Lance should be able to tackle down a few of these. Nicely done to minimize the casualties. Louis is going to have to settle for the berries instead. Like, this is the challenge of hopping straight to the deer like that, right? Is like the mangoes are way too slow. And this is turning into Imperial. I think Beasty, even though he's against janissaries, I've got this weird feeling we are going to be seeing the Desert Raider wing just because it's so cost efficient for Imperial rushing.
Yeah, isn't it for Imperial, it's 7, right? You get 7? Desert
Yeah,
Raiders?
you get 7 and they cost 180 resources each, right?
Yeah, so that is, oh my God, just the amount of resources that you get.
Yeah, so it ends up being 1,260 resources for that, right? So, like, literally every minute you're getting an extra 630 resources.
Mm-hmm. And it ends up, I mean, Imperial, it just ends up paying itself off, obviously. And now, with the amount of map control that Beasty has, oh my God, Louis is like, he doesn't have anywhere to go.
Please, sir, please. No, get out of here.
You know, and this is such a big problem with the Ottomans. I mean, yeah, you can get Anatolian hills and get a little bit more sheep, but you still have this food issue. And I feel like the Ottomans, this is something that they've been struggling with for a while now, because now that he doesn't have fish, obviously, you know, he doesn't have that safe food. All of these food resources are so far out there, and an Ottoman farm transition might not be what he wants to do either. That's so time consuming.
Yeah, it's all about passive production to really compete at this stage, but that doesn't work when a clock is ticking against you and a gun is to your head, right? Beasty isn't only going Imperial Age, he's also 2TC. Like, everything is going his way. Like, the only thing that he could add on that would be even kind of wilder is if he traded, but, like, trade is not very good on this map. Now, we do have the upgrade for the Desert Raiders coming, and we also have Sultan's Mamluks, which is really impactful here, because your archers counter janissaries. They kill them very fast, and because janissaries are low base health units, it means you're going to trigger that buff a lot.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And there are a lot of these archers that can really do some damage. Now, Louis is trying to add a little bit of supply. I think he's gotten a little bit of food, at least. That South Deer Pack might be starting to get gathered just a little bit. So now he's actually able to pump out something. And Sapahi is that something that he's going to pump out. I kind of like this choice based on what BC has right now. I mean, he's got some camel units, which will provide a little bit of unease, but the janissaries, for how many that Louis has, should be able to clean them up pretty quick, regardless of if there's archers there.
So the upside for Louis right now is we don't have the keep drops, right? Like there's still a potential route to decap. Downside is pretty much everything else. Like this is a bit of a Hail Mary. He has got 4 mangoes. He has got the meta, which is juicing him up here. But Beasty is getting ready for the big boys. But Spearman being upgraded. Gulam now on the way as well. And the awkward part about that is like normally you kite this infantry and kill them. When there's a timer ticking like this, you can't kite. You have to commit.
Yeah, and that's why doing things like getting these sacred sites, especially on this map, I've noticed, is a really big deal because you're creating that defender's advantage when you otherwise wouldn't have it in the middle of the map. So you're going to be able to, just like Louis did with the Byzantines in that prior game, right? You're using those outposts around you to kind of add technically a little bit of a pseudo army, right? Because they're going to give you a little bit of damage, but at the cost of no supply, right? Which makes outposts continue to be overpowered, in my personal opinion. But because you have all of those defensive structures, it adds that invisible army there that Louis can't necessarily push through. And Beasty has defender's advantage. If he even wanted to make military buildings up there, he could do it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the nice thing, like little tip on what Louis done was cool was when he walled his backside a long time ago, because something we have been seeing is when someone takes full water, they start raiding you by Normandying your backline. But like the reality is like there's still, even though you had that key play, right? Like that was a cool tactic. The game strategy, I think, relied too much on the opening that got essentially countered by one villager. So like Louis, with this 54 janissary bomb, I'm not feeling inspired. It's crazy to say that, like, because actually I'd say janissary and castle is maybe a bit overtuned right now. I know people are going to hate to hear that because Ottoman underpowered. They definitely feel underwhelming in castle compared to like the other gunpowder units. But at this stage, like the Janny opening has looked quite good from what I've been seeing. Problem is it's getting a little bit late, right? Like what was the thing that like Black Widow always says to Hulk? It's getting late, big guy. Like it's kind of that fading moment. But this might be a permanent slumber for Louis. He marches up. Mango's going to posture away. We have got a decap on the way, so it looks like that is going to be step 1. He will be able to achieve the removal of the sacred site timer.
And that's so pivotal for him because he really just needs time, right? He needs time to get his army underway, try to stabilize in terms of technology, right? Try to get to Imp as well. Beasty chooses not really to take this fight, you know? He could have went all out to try to stop these sacred sites, but he's bringing, I know the archers are the counter of the janissaries, but look at all of that gunpowder. It's like the War of 1812 over here, and he's shooting a bow and arrow.
Yeah, being the native's not a good situation here, so I guess we're just going to say that this is Ibid territory by default, but not for long. Kind of going real history there as well, Ottomans versus the Middle East. So, Clash coming towards the other sacred site, which will get decapped. Beasty, I think the other thing is, like, he needs a farm transition, right? Like he doesn't have that much food. That's why he wasn't willing to compete with that. And what's kind of worrying me is, like, I thought that he'd be able to get into siege and contest that. With that decap coming through, changes the outlook. Hulk won't be sleeping. Hulk will smash. Imperial Age is going to be on the way in the next 40 seconds for Louis. At which stage, these Janissary Sipahi masses become the creme de la creme.
Yeah, because you can also think about some of the siege that the Ottoman has available to them in Imperial Age, if it ends up getting there. So obviously Beasty is going to be using his Manganiques and maybe get adjustable crossbars if he wants to, but now the Istanbul Observatory is coming up, and that means out of that MIA, KP, we're going to get some giant bombards.
I mean, the more interesting thing is actually going to be the gunner boys, right? Trench guns is going to pop hard, but it takes a little bit of time to get that tech. There is a window here for Beasty. He has his elite techs coming in. That's something Louis cannot brag yet. 5 mangoes. Now the work cut out here, but Beasty is riding blind into the tree line. And he walks away at a moment where he really needed to be walking in.
And that's the power of Stealth Force, KP. You know, just not having that vision to see everything that you need to. A lot of the Stealth Force ends up backing people up as he's trying to get a little bit of a raid over here on the south side where this little economic powerhouse is for the Ottoman Empire. But the fact that you have that Stealth Force there and you don't have scouts, you can't see whatever, you don't know if you're throwing your army in to its defeat or if it's going to be a resounding victory. So you don't take that chance.
Yeah, you'd think for gamers, most of us having to wear glasses, we wouldn't have such a sight issue in game, but Stealth Forest remind us of our biggest crippling weakness, our kryptonite, seeing.
Oh, I thought it was going outside. But regardless, the having the ability.
That's true. Like the trees are a problem. Okay.
Right, right. And now Beasty, with a little bit of his own Imperial firepower, going to be adding some culverins. I think he's going to be able to, just because his economy is a little bit better, you know, with the economic count and all that kind of stuff, he's going to be able to produce those culverins at lightning speed, whereas those bombards are going to take a little bit of time to come out.
Yeah, Beasty's just going hard in the culverins. Like, we're getting CGK mode. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? You need someone to snipe out the Great Bombards. You need to deal with the Mangoes. And also, I don't think they won't one-hit the Janissaries, especially now that they're elite tech, right? It's still a two-hit killer, though. So, kind of makes sense. What just doesn't make sense, and this is my worry, my reservation, we talked about the Desert Raider wing. It's worthless, right? Like, even more so right now, because he's max pop. Like, this is a really interesting matchup because of that now. Because usually Ottomans at 200 pop doing nothing is bad, because you're missing out on 3 units. But Iabids are kind of a mini Ottomans now because of that wing choice.
Yeah, and I think he would just, honestly, he would rather prefer something else than the Desert Raiders right now. But with all these Sipahi trying to take a charge in, we'll see how advantageous that is. Janissaries are going to be able to fire their guns at every camel in existence, making them back up. And this looks like both of them, it looks like they want to take a fight, but they're a little scared. Like, they both have the counter to each other, so you're like, I don't really know.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I forgot they had that change. The Desert Raider tickets stack, right? Yeah. So I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I remember hearing someone talk about this. Like, they had a game where they were 2 max pop to spawn any Desert Raiders for like 10 minutes.
Oh.
And then all of a sudden, like 40 of them just appeared.
And especially,
so hear me out.
Like, what if you get to a high vil count, right, and you just delete 30 vils? Like, that's that.
No. What you do is you like make sure you got like 20 racks, and you just keep fighting for like 10 minutes. And then when it looks like you've both exhausted yourself down to 0 military, the Flight of the Valkyrie music starts playing, and like 80 Desert Raiders come out.
Oh my god, I hope we do get to see that at some point, because there's a lot of posturing. There's not a lot of actual population loss, but Beasty and the Iabids trying to get a keep over there on that northern side. There's too many mangonels, I think, here for Louis. So some of those mangonels are going to end up going down. That keep ends up getting canceled. It's probably with a pretty nice flank, and just because of their mobility, able to get out of harm's way. But with Beasty's culverins, he's able to take down a couple mangonels when otherwise I think he would have been dead in the water.
Yeah, tricky thing with having Mango advantage is if your opponent has just a few, he can still kill you. Because remember, yours are clustered together, right? Whereas, like, all you need is a few volleys. So even though Louis had the Mango advantage, that's why it didn't look that good of exchange. Flash now coming in, though. Janissaries gonna be able to melt through this. I just don't see a world in which Beasty wins this fight. It's just too many guns.
Yeah, and you're gonna look at them wiping every. Mangonel's getting good hits
God.
on archers. Beasty has to back up that way. Now the military count is vastly shifted in the way to the Ottomans, KP, and there's still 50 Janissaries out there.
US Ottomans. I mean, guns beat all, right? Like, it's the classic here. Just seems to be impenetrable. And the crazy thing about this as well is, like, he has the Imam in there. That was a smart read by Louis. Remember, Beasty never went for the Dervish, so because he didn't take that Dervish wing, he doesn't have an AoE heal. So these Mango shots come in, and then your boo-boos get kissed out by the time they reload it. That's why the Janissaries simply aren't dropping dead.
And now, like, what are you gonna do against all these, man? What are you actually gonna do? I guess you just leave. Like, there's no other.
Just throw your keyboard out of the window, blame that for why you lost, and go game 5.
And now you have torso-sized cannonballs getting hurled at you in a bunch of directions. That keep is going down rather quickly. And I think this is the time when you give the Ottomans enough time to get their feet out from under them. They come up with this unstoppable death ball that you can't really do anything about.
And Beasty just went for the camp strategy, right? But like without a key drop, it didn't feel like it was ever fully going to close out. Well played to Louis. It looks like he's going to prove Ottomans can be kings on Lakeside. Not the first time I've seen him win here, but a bloody impressive way to do it. The ballsy choice to go immediately into Janissaries is a rare sight. Rarely does it ever go unpunished, but Louis found the pristine game for it here.
And I'll tell you, this is looking at these resources and looking at these charts and graphs and all this cool stuff that we have here because of our producer that makes us look so good. Look at the amount of resources gathered for both civilizations. Beastie had 13,000 more resources. And that's just what happens when you get something like military schools that continue to pump for you, right?
Yeah.
You get rid of the middleman of, hey, we don't have to worry about gathering a lot of resources because we're already making the units before you even have to get those resources, right? So
It's
it
like,
looks
wait, you
like,
pay your people?
right,
Whoa.
right. Like it looks like for economy that BC is obviously favored. We were talking about how good he was in an economic sense. It just couldn't take over something like a military school. It couldn't take over pumping all of those janissaries out essentially for free.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Like, and I'm thinking back, could BC have just all-in him in Castle Age instead of delaying? It's tricky. You could see the pausing moment where he had like half what he need for Imperial Age, and it's almost like he didn't know what to build. And I did mention that about this matchup. Like, Sapahi Janissary can break you. Janissaries in particular, just very polarizing that stage. Like, the obvious answer is to go archers. I think maybe in hindsight, the play would have been something cheap like spears into mass mangoes, right?
Yeah,
Because that destroys Janissaries.
right. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, the archers are that quote unquote counter, right, to the janissary. But once you get to Imperial Age, you're using archers, right? So he's doing things like getting Sapahi. You can do things like get men at arms. You can do, there are so many things that archers are not effective for in Imperial Age. So obviously, you're going to be trying to take down those janissaries, but that backline can get easily wiped down. And janissaries don't have that ability for them to get surrounded because of how good damage they do to cavalry, as you're seeing right now. A couple camel lancers and a desert raider go down at no cost to those janissaries. I'm not going to say those 3 units helped set the tone, but it definitely helped spiral into this particular moment with this posturing, and then it ends up this battle being taken, most archers being on Ayubid's side trying to take down these janissaries. They just didn't have enough firepower.
There's so many Sapahi. Like, that's the most obnoxious element. And you've just seen the healing what I was talking about, right? Like, this makes such a difference because the thing that you delusionally convince yourself of is after losing an army like this, right? Your takeaway is, well, we hurt them too. You didn't. Like, that's the
Yeah.
obnoxiousness is like usually the flow of AoE4, you know what I'm talking about, is when you get this late game, you have that meat grinder. The reason why it never ends is because the side that wins now has loads of injured troops. And that's the very unique thing about imams and dervishes is they offset that problem in a very intriguing way in the late game.
Yeah, usually, we talk about how powerful healing is, especially when you're talking about like feudal age kind of stuff, right? Because some people have access to the prelates and the scholars and all that kind of stuff. But you need those kind of powerhouses like a dervish with mass heal or the imams or all that kind of stuff to make that healing be a devastating impact. You're exactly right. So I remember we talked a little bit off the camera before the stream started about this series, and you were talking about maybe something 3-2 related. And my God, are you just so right, dude?
Let's just say I might be on course for 2 for 2 so far. Um, like I want to be proven wrong here, but like look at these picks. I mean, loueMT on Mongols against the Bassids on a map like Kalauga, bit of a rarer sighting seeing these two clash. You're gonna typically go military wing here, right? Because you need to answer the Mongols. Um, I'm wondering if this map is too loose for a defensive civ like Abbasids, because like
Mm.
the tree lines, the gold, all of it is so far away. And if there's any civ that loves an open, naked map where they can attack, it's Mongols.
Oh yeah, just for how mobile they can be, right? Going up with deer stones in the feudal age, you're going to be able to run around and do whatever the hell you want, especially in a map like this where you can traverse through the rivers. I think it's going to be a lot of weight. It's going to be based on what you do with those 4 units when you get out of that military wing with the Abbasids. The amount of tempo that you get is so crazy with the military wing because you don't have to get an archer range, you don't have to get a barracks. You just end up getting those 4 units for free, and then you could build a ram with them. So you might be able to take down a dock or 2. Who knows?
So one thing that I'm confused by though is the Mongol pick over the Japanese pick.
Mm.
Because like Japan does quite well against ABBA.
Mm-hmm.
French is a bit weirder. If they get arbitrary, you're screwed, right? Because like the weakness of Japan, the current meta is they can't build crossbows. That's their biggest downfall. But like Mongols, I think maybe lose expecting French. I feel like it's a bit better for Mongols than ABBA. But I guess we'll see. It's gone all the way to 5 games. I would expect it, seeing the names on the screen, the similarities of playstyle. We hop into Kalauga to see who is going to be proceeding forward here. Beasty with the Abbasids, loueMT on the Mongols.
Yeah, and this is a pretty interesting one. This is the third game out of our 5-game series that is a little bit wet on this map. So we got a little bit of water fish playing a very important role in the series going forward. Now, for Louis, he has the potential to do things like get a barracks around an Uvu, try to figure all that kind of stuff out, get aggressive with it, or is he just going to bypass that completely?
So I have seen some Mongol players just kind of scouting first, and then if they gather the wood, they have options, right? Like on land, it's either you go racks or you go for pasture. On a map like this, fishing can make sense. I don't know if the outpost is really worth it against Abba. The problem is they're going to gather enough gold realistically that they should be able to get their tech up. That being said, when you see your opponent open fishing like this, could change things. The only issue I take is like there's going to be one back and one forward gold, right? So one outpost would ever be enough.
No, because that second gold, you're exactly right. That second gold is so safe. If you see anything, if you see a couple spearmen walk out, or you see a tower getting built, you just leave.
Yeah.
Right. But Beasty doesn't need to worry about that. That is a very forward gold, though. I mean, I get that they're supposed to be forward, but that is pretty out there. And it might be a target if the Mongols want to create a little bit of idle time going forward. Now, we talked about the going for Dark Age or going for Dock or whatever the case. He didn't really go for wood here. He's just trying to get that real quick age up with deer stones.
Yeah, and like you say, the gold's forward. It's always forward. On this
Yeah,
map, gold is as forward as someone asking to marry you on the first date, right? It's designed that way. You do have a backup option, but it's further away. That's meant to be the trade-off. The hilarity is because Mongols move their TC, the backup option is basically as close as the primary.
That is true. It almost begs the question: why don't you just start in the back?
Right?
Because
just push yourself all the way to the edge of the map and do a good old fast Imperial Mongol build. Who's going to stop you?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have the Abbasids who like to do their kind of booming strategies. Maybe they don't, but we're going to see what wing he ends up going for. It's kind of weird because is the military wing even something viable? Because the Mongols are just like bypassing water completely.
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting. Do you think that they benefit from at least trying to block the fishing? We do have military wing coming, but like military wing makes a lot more sense when your opponent is blocking something you want. He's not. It
Mhm.
looks like Louis might contemplate a fast castle build. It's on the table here, especially now your opponent going melee wing. It does come down to how much sheep he got. Like if we get a check on that, because the Khan has spent a lot of time spitting on these villages.
And talking about it's just disrespectful. These villagers, they're going to go down to I don't know about half health, and then they end up getting vacated, right? And I think we do see military wing out of Beasty, so he will have the potential to try to fight off that con a little bit. But Deerstone's is going to be the first one to go up, and I'm curious to see what production building he actually chooses. Now, Beasty going to be shoring up with the wall, now going with a feudal age dock. So he has the potential if he wants to create some chaos, but those walls are going to stop him.
I think that dock is also really necessary here because my thought is like, is Louis going to do like a double arch range build? That's bad against military wing, right? Your opponent can get better archers with boot camp, and horseman's a natural transition. Like, oh god, he's going to do it as well. So my worry here for Louis is now with melee wing, Beastie just drops the stables. It was a classic build for Abbasis that was really oppressive. You basically had all three unit types at the very beginning of feudal age, right? Which made it impossible for your opponent to get an edge in the opening.
Yeah, I think it's all about targeting down some of those military wing units, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to need the production buildings to build more of them. So obviously it gives you that little bit of tempo, but if you're able to take down a spearman, take down an archer or something like that, it could prove to be difficult for you. But take a look at what Louis is making KP. That looks like a big fat mega die.
Oh, we're doing this.
Or is it yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a Khan's hunter. So he is going to try to be the most annoying player with these Mangadai. I kind of like it.
Yeah, that's actually really smart because we talked about the looseness of the resources on this map at the very beginning, right? And like, what better unit to leverage that than Magadai? That's wild, though. I wouldn't have expected that. Nice little short wall is going to make it a bit harder for those type of raids to come through. But the tricky part is like Beastie, has he added in the stables yet? Like, has he done the organic play here? Because if he hasn't, the Magadai will get a good hit in. Yeah, no stables yet.
Yeah, because I don't really think he's aware You know, I'm not sure if he scouted that area, number one. Number two, he's probably not going to know if he didn't scout until those Megadai actually come in. And that is a very frustrating response to it, because you really want to know what's going on in your enemy's base so you have the counter already
Just wrap
prepared.
around.
He does not have that, especially with the Khan, the Megadai, and the Khan's hunters, those two archers. It's not enough.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go the south side to get on the tree line unseen. Because this, if you check the vision, Beasty gets to see him this way, right? So like, there should be enough time to react. Khan hunters are gonna get that extra range to kind of dunk on this. Outpost already up, so Beasty was anticipating. Now you can just mop up the spears, right? Even the archers aren't gonna be that threatening. More Magadai on the way, and Beasty, he was holding the food. We're finally seeing the investment here. Got enough wood together. Stables is gonna be coming in. This is the stage where Louis should be looking to add in caches.
Look at how annoying that is, man. Like, I'm really feeling for Beasty right now. As somebody who's been hit with Megadai one too many times that I'd like to count. Obviously, he's going to go with the stable. He's going to add some horsemen, which is going to help you. But it's so frustrating because you have deer stones, right, for the Mongols. You have the signal arrow to get you to run faster. You could have a potential to start to kind of run away from those horsemen. And then you're like, now I really don't know what to do.
Yeah, and you know the only upside for Beasty is his economy is predictably located, which means static should be able to defend a bit better. But still gonna be impacted by a lot of idle time in the meantime, right? No wheelbarrow at all. Do you need more than just Magadai? I'm kind of surprised Louis hasn't pivoted at all. Like in theory, Magadai can beat a horseman if you have the mobility. And I think that's why you're now seeing Louis moving the deer stone across map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean every 0.01 of tile speed is going to be advantageous for you, obviously. You know, this is where we're going to see it a little bit more magnified just because of this. So archery range trying to come in, but those Megadai are going to have something to say about it.
Hit the villagers? Not okay, so sometimes like you kind of wish there was a hold fire button for these things, because Beasty got a lot more awareness to react to that than he should have, because the Khan began by shooting the archery range, and then you had two like additional volleys into the archery range, right? Very, very annoying. Now this is pretty nice. We have got our ship on the way, but way too much fishing here. So Beasty is going to have to lose some of his economy.
By some of it, I think it's going to be most of it.
Like
yeah, he's not garrisoning. Oh, there we go. There's a little bit of a garrison.
But there's still one
Arrow
additional,
ship will come
right?
out.
So that's going to be, what, 4 fishing boats going down? Great start for Louis, and the archer ship comes out a little bit too late to really do anything about it. Wait. Okay, loueMT feels so bad for Beasty. He's trying to give him his deer stone.
Man, it's just crazy because of the amount of kills that he has already. You know, Louis didn't really worry about water until the feudal age because he wanted to get up and make Megadai. And he already killed 7 economic units, whether it be boats or whether it be villagers. So Beasty is on the back foot against the Mongol player that once they get a little bit of advantage in feudal age, they can really snowball it.
Now, keep in mind Magadai have been a dead unit for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I can already picture people saying that this is broken. And I'm just like, at that stage, anything is broken, right? Like, this unit is very situationally viable. You don't just start an AoE 4 game up at conk level and build Magadai. It's not how it works. This has been very clear from loueMT. And with the Keshiks now following this up, Beasty has a problem, right? Like, Horseman is not the solution. Look at Beasty's food income. He's struggling to sustain here.
Yeah, because he was kind of all in on the boating, on the fishing, right? So he's got another dock over there on the northwestern side of the map as well. Megadai going to shoot over that palisade wall to just pick off some of these horsemen. And because some of that fishing got exposed, he went down in that count. So he's going to have to pull some villagers if he wants to get that little bit of more food. He's going to probably pull some over the berries because he needs a lot more horsemen if he's going to deal with this. He's got 11 Megadai, and now with the Keshiks providing a front line, they might be able to sit and take a fight.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if like Beasty just needed to slowly scale the archers instead, right? Like, and another kind of interesting thing here is like if you want to use horsemen, Beasty's missing a really important element, which is going to be undermesh, right? Without undermesh, you actually can't contest these with the horse. This is becoming problematic.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Remember, he has got that falcon snitching, and the tree line is deep enough now. Beasty can't touch it, right? Like he's actually at this point, it's just irradiated uranium, right? Like, even if you go north here, I think Louis could actually stand there and hit you again.
Man, I'll tell you what, I would be tilting off of the planet with these Mangudai hitting me over and over and over again. Now with
Oh,
Deerstone,
dude, you'd have
looking to
3
try to
separate
take
Reddit
fight.
threads open, making 3 separate topics. I can already see you.
Oh, I'd be making. Oh yeah, I'd be making burner accounts.
Yep.
Right, just trying to get through everything to nerf a Mangudai as much as possible. Make them throw their bows instead of shooting arrows at it. That would probably be.
I can already picture like the YouTube video as well. Like you put on like almost kind of like a Big Bang Theory-esque nerd style costume, right? With like the super nerdy specky glasses and a chalkboard pointing and explaining why Mangudai are OP. I see it.
And
all.
it's super clickbait, being like, we need to talk.
Yeah.
You know, did you ever see some of those?
And then there's like Beasty just on the floor looking dead, right? Like as the thumbnail.
Right. And they think it's like some kind of doctor stuff, not so much. The Deerstones, however, is going to need a little bit of suturing because it is getting burned down and moving across the battlefield now. Hopefully it'll get placed in the middle of the map. It turns itself around, and now those Mangudai are going to get that little bit of speed that they necessarily need. Now Beastie continuing with these outposts, try to do anything to stop these Mangudai.
Oh, we have
I feel like
Springald ships coming, which is really bad news for him because loueMT is doubling down on land. This should be, what, step redoubt? Kurotai's weird. He might do it because of position, but Kurotai always looks and feels weird with cavalry.
yeah, he is choosing the Kurottai here with these villagers, and I'm kind of, I mean, I'm not actually surprised just because of, you know, the Kurottai being as strong as it is, but you're absolutely right. With these mobile units, especially with Mangudai, like you can't have them sit in one place. You really don't want to sit under a Kurottai and take a fight because you don't want to get hit at all.
Yeah, it's like when you watch Kurotai trying to show up to a fight, it's like they got the wrong date for the battle. Like, hey guys, I'm here for the really big war-ending battle that we're gonna slay each other. Why is everyone dead? Right, like it never gets there quick enough. Even with the pack-up tech, it usually runs a little bit too late. We have got to dive in here. Fishing boats are being pulled. He's actually trying to force this. I think this is a bit over-exhaustive out of Louis. Demo detonation is going to be coming through. Fishing boats are being sacrificed just to keep that archer ship alive. But Beastie, as a result, does get a stay of execution. Now he needs to deal with a bigger and more scary threat. Veterancy's coming in for all the cavalry.
Yep, he clicked that as soon as he possibly could. These fishing boats are going to go down as well, so Beastie's got to be starting to think for something when it comes to food. I know that I'm pretty sure he is going into Castle Age right now, not making any units.
And that's it.
And he's
wow,
done.
He calls it. It's over. GG comes out. The Chinese prodigy kid proves that he is on par. A 3-2 victory for loueMT.
What an incredible series. This series was absolutely insane. There was a back and forth throughout just about every game that we had. We had some situations where we called games for players that didn't really happen and ended up going the other way. This one, Louis did a really good job of continuing that economic or that military lead that he had with those Mangudai killing those villagers. And it just set the tone. Dude, if I'm Beastie, the amount of how long he stayed in that game, I would tip my cap to him because I probably would have quit 3 minutes prior.
Yeah, this is like everyone's first experience with horse archers, right? It reminds me of that one. It's like, how is this unit balanced? It does have that feeling, or like a Gilded Meta Arms Rush. Really painful because Mangudai, now proven to be viable with games like this, it's always easy to forget that they even have that unit. There's certain units in AoE4 that function that way that you never see them. So the surprise factor is on a whole other level. Just great read by Louis, though. I think that's the map to do it. Like we've got Ottomans and Ibis still on the page because we need to remember those games prior as well. Like the way that Louis played that was very creative in the late game. Just really, really impressive out of him. Beastie just caught off guard, I'd say twice in the series. And it means that loueMT proves that the scrims have been paying off. He's been cooking up and brewing some amazing strategies. But guys, I know what you're thinking. First interview ever of Louis. No, I'm sorry. We're not going to be doing it. loueMT, he's English is okay. I've seen him communicate serious to me. Like, yes, very fun. Go. That's kind of the extensive nature of it. We don't want to put him on the spot. And I don't think Tim, do you speak Chinese?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
I get like ni hao and that would be it. We'd be done.
As we've kind of discussed throughout this stream today, I am an uncultured American. So if it's not English, I don't know it.